Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to regular city council meeting. And Weston, would you lead us in the roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Here.
Councilmember Rule.
Here.
Councilmember Whitman.
Here.
Councilmember Meng.
Here.
And Mayor Gilman is absent tonight.
Great. And would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. Honorable Council, community, please rise as you are able. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent, thank you. I have a couple of changes that have been requested for the agenda tonight. So I would like to request that we move up item number 12. I'm sorry, item number 14. And yes, item number 12 and item number 14. Item number 12 because this is the chief's last meeting and we don't want to keep him too long, and item number 14 because it's timely and we need to complete that this evening.
So item number 12 for me is the first reading of the ordinance.
Yes, that's the traffic.
Okay.
So item number 12 is the traffic survey.
And that's what you want to move up?
Yes.
Okay.
And item number 14.
Okay.
So Mayor Pro Tem, just to be
Yes.
clear, what would the order for the discussion section be,
So
just
the
so
order-
everyone's clear?
The order would be item number 12 would
Okay.
be moved up to item number 11. Item number 14 would be moved up to item number 12. And then item number 11 would be number 13. And item number 13 would be number 14.
So the sequence will be 12, 14, 11, 13 when we're in the discussion section.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. City Clerk, is that clear?
Yes, Mr. City Manager.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve those changes?
Yes,
Excellent.
I
Thank
so
you.
move.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
We'll go second.
All right, great.
Do a roll call, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Meng.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we have two presentations, and our first one is going to be Chief Jenkins.
No, please go ahead, Chief. Mayor Pro Tem, the Chief is going to lead this off himself. This is his last night with us in the council meeting as our Chief of Police. He will explain next steps and who is coming, who you've already met. Take it away, Chief Jenkins.
So thank you for this opportunity. Just say a few words, but this is my last week, and then Chief Tyler Abbott will be starting next week. So first off, I want to thank Ben for this opportunity. He's the one that selected me for the job. To Ojai, you do have a great leader here. I've worked with a lot of people in 25 years. You have a great leader in Ben Harvey. He is competent and caring. He really does care about Ojai. So I've seen it firsthand. And then he's put together a great team, a staff. So, I mean, that goes to show his leadership too. And when you have a great team working around you. Also, I want to thank the city council members, each one of you. You know, we've met, we've had lots of conversations, to, again, the city of Ojai. You have an amazing city council. I love working with each one of them. You know, you may not agree with everything they decide or, you know, vote for, but when you peel back the layers of each one of them, their heart is pure, their heart's in it for the right reasons, their motivations are pure, and I see that. You know, I see that in each one of you. Yeah, you're here because you care about Ojai. So truly, so thank you. I saw that in each one of you. You know, 25 years in this career, and I can tell you this has been one of my favorite assignments. Okay. And last week I was kind of reflecting on why the hesitation to leave, why, some of the emotions popping up, but I can tell you It's not the traffic. It's not e-bikers. It's not some of the nuisance stuff. It's not, it's not working with Caltrans like WM. It's not, some of the road construction. It's not all the stuff all the work we're doing. Okay. I will tell you what it is because I kind of broke it down. It's the people. It's the people here that makes you unique and special. And so it's the city staff, city manager, all the city council members. It's, the deputies I work with, the Rotary members, Chamber of Commerce. It's everyone I've come across at all these events. The Ojai people are so kind and just so caring. And so I appreciate that. And so it's the people that make Ojai great. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. One of my favorite quotes, and I've kind of built my leadership around the idea of this quote, is from Maya Angelou. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Ojai, years from now, when I think back on my career and all the great things, great times I've had, I will remember the people of Ojai and how I felt around all of you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. And we will absolutely remember you, and thank you so much. It's been a real joy to work with you. You blend compassion with strength and leadership, and I wish you all the best in your new role. Great.
Yeah, I'll just join in that. I've very much enjoyed working with you, Steve, and I think City of Ojai was greatly benefited by your service.
Yeah, I agree as well. It was just too short. So, but thank you for everything. Truly a pleasure doing things with you.
And I'll just appreciate you for your availability and willingness to engage deeply with whatever question it is that we have. You and I have worked a couple of things together, and you were really great to work with, and I much appreciated your help and support. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so I gave each of you a challenge coin. That's just a token of thank you for all the work you do for Ojai and for everything you did for me. But I will tell you, it's not a get out of jail free card.
I don't think any of us here plan on spending a lot of time in jail on the inside. Thank you so much. Really great. Okay. All right, and now we have another presentation, and I'll invite members of the HPC up. I believe Brian Akins is going to be leading this presentation.
Yes, he is. So I'm Brian Akins. I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission. I've been asked to do the honors tonight. I do want to point out that I take offense to people not wanting to spend time in the jail, the Ojai jail. Okay, it's a really nice place, so just keeping that in mind. So anyway, I'm here again to pass out the annual historic awarding of annual award and then a lifetime award. And we appreciate very much the council for reviewing this and for your agreement in going forward and presenting these awards. Waiting for a couple others to show up at any time. So we do have a couple changes on just things that happen. Life happens. We will be reserving the award for lifetime or annual award winner Stephen Adams. He was unable to make it here tonight, and asked if we could postpone that award for him. We all know, we all love Stephen, and so very happy to have that. So what we would like to do is we have the second annual award is for the Ojai Playhouse. The three people that we recognized as key persons in this, and this goes back to basically taking the Ojai Playhouse to, as you can imagine, when the river ran through it and what it's become now. the total effort in doing that. And we on the Historic Preservation Commission really enjoyed working with these individuals. So David Berger, who is the owner of the Ojai Playhouse, Robert Kubiak, I talked to Robert just the other day. Robert is the architect for the effort, for everything that took place. I believe he's a Santa Barbara architect. And Kerry Miller, who's a local general contractor, and he called me this afternoon and had a family issue that he had to take care of that. And if you know me, you know me. Family comes number one, so wholeheartedly agree with that. So, but I do want to talk about the Ojai Playhouse and the individuals. So, David Berger, following his dream of restoring the Ojai Playhouse Theater, Mr. Berger spent around $13 million in 4 years on the project as a gift to Ojai. Following a successful career as a concert promoter, he wanted to return the theater's 101-year-old facade to its mission revival essence while updating the interior to a state-of-the-art venue. Recently, he purchased the landmarked Old Tower Theater in Santa Paula, there on Main Street. David, as I talked with Robert the other night, is an interesting guy. And what David comes up with, we might be hard-pressed to, in all of the great ideas and things that he has brought to, we might be hard-pressed to find another individual, another David in our valley. So I would say with that, and I think that's very complimentary in sharing that, knowing David as I've known him for the many years. So thank you, David. Robert Kupiak is a Santa Barbara architect. He became involved in the restoration project early on following the disastrous flooding which closed the theater in 2014. Kubiak worked to maintain the historic exterior, even retaining the restored marquee letters, and designed the updated interior into a premier theater and performance space. Sorry, I'm looking behind me to see if any of these individuals walked in while I was at my back to them. And Kerry Miller, again, locally here. Kerry was probably the one I worked closest to. Kerry was documenting, taking pictures of every step, everything that they found along the way. I'm all for pictures of every step. We'll put it up in the museum in 50 years. So Kerry Miller, local designer and general contractor, worked 10 years on the project and was retained by David Berger when he bought the building. Miller influenced the restoration through his expertise in green building and his pursuit of creating functional art engendered through a degree in sculpture and architecture. So again, we are happy to recognize and happy to award an annual award to the Ojai Playhouse Theater, and may it live long and prosper for decades and decades to come. So we will most likely do the presentation of that plaque at an upcoming Historic Preservation Commission, and we will make it known that we will be giving that plaque out at that time so people can share their thanks for all they've done.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are the two annual awards, and again, I apologize for the late letting them know when we were going to meet on these different things. Again, things have been quite hectic. Okay, so now we're going to move to the 100% Club and the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I would like to invite Robert Parsons to please come up, just so you can tell who they are when they get here. I love how I walked in the door and I'm like, what's going on here tonight? And they said, Gables. I said, okay. I talked to Dee and she said, yeah, it's an outing. I love it. Huh? Oh, Dee, sorry. Okay, I'd like to bring Alice Parsons up, if she would, please. Thank you, Alice. Okay, I'd like to bring Janelle Parsons up, if she would join us. Don't want to lose that paper. Thank you. And bring up David Brown. David, if you would join us also, please. told them they needed to line up over there for the sheriff, no, for pictures that we were going to do. So this is normally where I tell you all about the Gables, but you know, we have a commissioner that's with us who wrote the book on the Gables. So at this time, I'm going to invite Craig Walker to come up and share some thoughts with us.
Great.
The Gables of Ojai started out in the late 1890s as a two-story farmhouse on the corner of Montgomery and Grand. Surrounded by an apricot orchard, it was named Gray Gables by the family who lived there. In 1954, the property was purchased by Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus and the National Retired Teachers Association. Gray Gables was America's first national retirement home for teachers. It was also home to the National Retired Teachers Association. It became the model for a new retirement lifestyle, the one we all aspire to today. In 1958, Dr. Andrus founded the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, right here in Ojai, and ran it from her offices at Gray Gables. In the 1960s and 70s, AARP was Ojai's largest employer. By the late 1960s, AARP was just too big for Ojai and moved to its headquarters in Long Beach and Washington, D.C. In 1982, Gray Gables became an independent, nonprofit retirement home open to all retirees. And it's some distinction that the largest membership organization in America started right here in Ojai, and it's now up to, I believe, 37 million people. In 2000, the Parsons family and David Brown purchased Gray Gables, renaming it the Gables of Ojai. During their ownership, they have maintained the historic buildings and grounds. It still represents the beauty and gracious living envisioned by Dr. Andrus in 1954. For over 15 years, it has won the Best of Ojai competition in its category. In 2024, the National Trust for Historic Preservation recognized it as a historic treasure and gave the Ojai Valley Museum a $25,000 grant to write a book about it. The owners were invaluable in helping Mark Lewis and myself research the property's history. With this award, the City of Ojai honors the amazing stewardship of the Gables by the Parsons family and David Brown. Over the years, they have preserved its historic beauty and its purpose. Today, it continues to serve as a model of retirement living at its best. Thank you very much.
Okay, now for the good stuff. I'd like to invite Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Lang to come up, and she has the goodie. Or Weston, who's been keeping guard over it, passed it along. Thank you, Weston. Okay.
I want to congratulate you all on your Lifetime Achievement Award. This is so well deserved, and thank you for the service that you offer to our community and to everyone who has been a part of the Gables community.
But I hate to do this, like, yeah, we're very sprawl. You're also beautiful.
One more time. It's gonna be hovering behind you here, sorry.
Thank you all very much. for your support through this process.
Thank you, Brian.
And thank you, all the Gables residents, for the fine field trip you decided to do tonight. Thank you.
Yes, welcome to our city council meeting, and we
Okay.
thank you all for being here for this great honor and recognition. And I want to take the opportunity to also thank our HPC members for all of your tireless work and for having these kinds of opportunities where we can recognize members of our community. And we look forward to seeing the award presentations of the other recipients of our awards tonight. Okay.
Good.
Okay, we'll move on. Do we have any commission reports tonight?
Mayor
Hey,
Pro-
I did want to make one
Yeah,
quick
okay.
comment, if it's okay. If anybody hasn't been to see the Ojai Playhouse, it's really worthwhile. The transformation of what it was to what it is today is, and it's as fine a place as, any place you'd want to see in Hollywood or somewhere else.
Yes. And since we are acknowledging Stephen Adams, I mean, I've never been to an event without him there taking photos of us. So, yeah, all of our recipients. Yeah. Great. Okay, so do we have any commission reports tonight?
I'm not aware of any.
No, Mayor.
Nope. Okay.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem.
Excellent. Okay, city manager?
Great, thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. We have 3 announcements as part of my report, so I'd like to turn things over first to Mr. Cervantes, who's going to talk about trolley briefly, and then Ms. Mara will come up to the lectern to talk about business licensing, and then I'll finish up with a brief storm damage date. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, we're excited to give you an update on the trolley. So first off, we have a couple of our drivers that have taken the opportunity and the advantage of our trolley benefits program. Thanks to you all for your support and leadership on that. And then we also have 3 fully licensed trolley drivers in the pre-employment backgrounds for employment. So as soon as that happens, and that will help us move away from our contract drivers and also enhance our service in the city. So we're excited about that. And then also we've recently updated the brochure. So we're excited for all that's coming, and we continue to build upon the trolley service within the city.
I have one quick question.
Yeah.
With those that are in the pipeline for employment, what's the time frame?
So it would just depend on when they're able to get their physical and their live scan and things of this sort. So it would just depend on their schedule.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cervantes. Ms. Mara, could I ask you to give a brief business license update?
Hi. Okay, so I just wanted to, you're all aware that we're switching over into HDL. It's an online portal. It's going to be great for everybody, not just for me, for the entire business community. Easier access to your business license, payments, changing and updating your license. I know we've reported out that the portal should be going live at the last week of January. Fortunately, HDL's let me know that it's actually going to be about February 4th. That's the go live date that they're giving me right now. I am asking them if they can mail out these letters to the businesses earlier so that they at least know. But I am open to help anybody out with their business license. There's no reason why I can't give them a temporary one while we're waiting for it. So if anybody wants to come into the office and just pay for, or, I can give them that temporary license. There's no waits. Okay. Any questions for me?
No, that was one of the questions I had. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And I can take payments. Like I said, everything's online, but we've made it clear to HDL that this city likes to pay with checks and cash. So we will be taking checks and cash. We're not cutting that off at all. And yeah, if they need one to give to one of their requesters, I'm happy to give them a temporary license until the portal's open.
Thank
Good.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Mara. And then lastly, just want to make the council and the public aware that the city is working with the county and Cal OES to seek reimbursement for expenses and damages incurred during the storms around the holidays. And so we were able to participate under the county's emergency declaration, and we had a phone call with the state and the county. The state will be letting us know next steps. So even if we're able to achieve just a fraction of some of our costs and damages, that would be a victory. I will keep you posted on this one. Thank you.
Great. And I just wanted to add that excellent response from our city staff, from our police chief, from our fire department. Really, you handled the storms from the minute we had the warnings until the debris cleanup. So excellent job. Okay. All right. So now we will go on to our public communications. And I just wanted to remind you all that these are comments, public comments on business, anything other than what's scheduled on our agenda tonight. The council members cannot respond to any comments that you have. We can't discuss any of those items since they're not agendized, but this is your opportunity to let your voices be heard. So we'll start with Mariah Mark, Dalton Foreman. Oh, wait, what? I'm sorry? Malk. Thank you. And Dalton Foreman, and then Mike Hutchinson. So go ahead, Mariah.
Mariah Mall. In the last week, I missed 2 appointments because the trolley was not running when it should have. One of those appointments was a very important medical appointment. I missed it. I tried to go and they said, nope, you have to reschedule. Why? The trolley wasn't running. So I called the supervisor multiple times, 20 times, never answered, never returned my call. He finally called me. He said, oh, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. And I said, oh, okay, well, is there anything you can do? Oh, he was of no help. That's okay. I had to reschedule for February. Anyways, long story short, here I am. I'm speaking for not for myself, but for other people. I'm the one who rides the trolley all the time. I used to call Anthony and he was always there to help, the old supervisor. I just don't see why he's not here now, but we know why. You have been paying him for a year. Bring him back. There isn't anyone that I talked to that had a bad experience with Anthony. The trolley was running better when he was here. You know that. I know that. We don't have to say now because the trolley is not running how it should be. We don't have that. Now we have to switch trolleys at every shift in the morning and be afraid we're going to miss our appointments like I've had multiple times. That's why I'm here. Why are we hiring weekend drivers that don't know anything? And also that they're not here in the morning when we miss our appointments. I have missed several appointments. I just don't understand why. If there's drivers here, why am I missing my appointments? Thank you.
Thank you. And we had an update just now about the trolley, so
Following public comment, I'm happy to have Mr. Montes get details on the dates when the appointments were missed, and we can follow up and see what happened.
excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Dalton, Mike Hutchinson, and then Eric Ryder.
Hi, again, my name is Dalton Foreman. I just wanted to introduce myself. I recently moved in town with my family about 6 months ago. I'm now the new pastor of Ojai Valley Baptist Church just before Baldwin at the split of the 33 and the 150, and I wanted to introduce myself and let myself be known as someone who wants to participate in community, and thankful that I can be here, be able to get to know you guys more so as I get to help and expand our ability to share resources with and just help participate in community and help bring resources to the people in need. We know there's a lot to do in Ojai, and most of our people at our church are long-time Ojai residents, from people who have been here 60 years plus to people who have been here even longer with their family history. And so I'm excited to help participate and to get to know you guys as I get to be here longer. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you and welcome. Okay, now we have Mike Hutchinson, Eric Ryder, and then Clay Creasy.
Hello, Mike Hutchinson. I've been here 19 years, just adding my voice to the choir about the trolley. Like paraphrasing, they say that you can tell a society by how it treats its most disenfranchised members. Again, paraphrasing. And so I think the trolley does need more attention. It used to run to the east of Ojai. That served a large community. It used to go further to the west. When you expand the area that it used to cover, that's 30,000 people versus maybe 8,000 people in Ojai. So it is important. And I'm told that it's been on the agenda for a year to get that second trolley running. That's a long time. It's enough time. It should be enough time to take and address that issue. And that was what I wanted to address to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Ryder, Clay Creasy, and Helena Pasquarella.
Given the update on the trolley, I'll jump to the punchline. Given that the city already has to cover the costs of defending Mr. Harvey's upcoming lawsuit, the fact that our community will also have to pay for damages if he loses can only leave us all of us wishing for his success. To that end, he needs to focus his attention fully on that matter at hand. No one could ably function as city manager in the lead up to and while defending themselves at trial. Regardless of the outcome, it is past time for Ojai to put Mr. Harvey in our community's rearview mirror. There must be dozens of reasons this council could use to relieve him from his duties without having to pay him severance. We most certainly should not continue to allow someone to direct our community's governance while defending themselves against claims of misconduct in that very service. Thank you.
Thank you. Clay Creasy, Helena Pasquarella, and then Anita Cram.
Thank you, Council, and Happy New Year. This is my first time at the City Council in a while. I had 3 months off in Ojai Act Purgatory playing Daddy Warbucks, but I'm now back and in my new normal personality as Ebenezer Scrooge. Anyhow, I wanted to talk about a couple things having to do with the Cabin Village financial situation. As you probably know, we are now being billed by Dignity Moves on a monthly basis for their expenses associated with bringing that project to fruition. They have given us 6 billings. They are charging their development fee at a rate of $30,125 a month, which means they will have fully paid themselves their $500,000 fee by this coming October. Meanwhile, the project has not had shovel one hit the dirt. There's zero chance this project will be anywhere close to done by October. So the real question that comes to mind is, why on earth are they deciding that they should be paid that much money per month when the contract is completely silent on the rate at which they would get paid? We have to approve those monthly invoices, and so far they've all been approved pretty much as submitted. But I think in the interest of my Ebenezer Scrooge personality, if I were you, I would tell Dignity Moves, we're not going to pay any more monthly $30,000 fees until we see more progress than just, something in the air. The second thing I want to talk about is the question of how much it's going to cost. Because as you all recall, we do not have an approved development budget, but that doesn't mean they are not telling us what they think it's going to cost on a monthly basis, because that's part of the required paperwork to submit each month's invoice. At this point, their current estimate, which has been the same number for the last couple months, is $9.8 million, which is $300,000 over the hard limit that you all have set of $9.5 million. It has been said that Dignity Moves has a requirement to bring the project in at 9.5 no matter what. That, in fact, is not correct. Paragraph 3.5 of the DMA is extremely explicit that if Dignity Moves thinks it's going to cost more than 9.5, then one of two things happens. Either we cough up more money from some source, or we reduce the scope of the project. there is zero chance Dignity Moves is going to take a loss or pay back any of their development fee. In fact, the DMA specifically says they will never pay back the development fee to cover cost overrun. So I think you need to pay attention to those two things, how fast they're getting paid and what they're going to do if this thing comes in over budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Helena, Anita Cram, and then Cameron Ransom.
Good afternoon, council members and city manager and Sheriff Jenkins. Sorry we haven't been able to work more because we've got lots of things to do. I want to first acknowledge that the land acknowledgement that we are holding this meeting on unceded Chumash land. It's been a while since I've come here, and I used to speak to you on behalf of the Ojai Ceasefire Now group, and we passed that resolution, grateful for that. But as you know, there was a ceasefire, and the genocide still continues, and more than 71,000 people have been murdered, and it's not stopping. But the U.S. government and the way that things are going and the fascism in our communities, I'm here as the director of the U.S. Department of Peace. We're the organization that has the weekly peace vigil on Fridays. And we've been out there every Friday because of the wars and the bombings that are going on. We've had 7 countries bombed in the last year. But I wanted to speak specifically about what happened on Friday, December 19th. Alan Shorb, our co-founder of the peace organization, was attacked and assaulted by a young boy with his bike. He didn't touch him, but he ran up to him and skidded next to him, and Alan almost fell. So we're having problems with the e-bikers, and I was there, and I ran after them, and it was a very chaotic situation, and they wouldn't go away, and they wouldn't leave us alone. I called the police. The police came in about 15 minutes. They were still there, and they were circling us. And they came back, and they assaulted Mr. Anand Panambalam, and they used their bike to kick up dirt and rocks on the other people who were standing there at the vigil. In this situation, I talked to the police. They went and talked to them, and they let them go. And it was just a reprimand, and nothing else was done. We were never contacted about anything. No one followed up with me. And I'm afraid for us. I'm afraid for those children out there acting recklessly in the middle of the streets. Do we have to wait until somebody really gets hurt, breaks a bone, hits their head, has a concussion, until you do something? We need to have some kind of oversight of this. Somebody needs to be at the park after school. And then they said to us, "I hate you fucking Democrats." And I said, "I'm not a Democrat. And Kamala Harris is a bitch." So it's come to the point where it's gotten political. It's not just about kids. They're attacking us politically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Anita Cram, and then Cameron.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm here tonight representing the new Democratic club in town, United Democrats of the Ojai Valley, and I'm recently elected to serve as president of that organization. So what we would like to let you know, all of Ojai community, is that Supervisor Matt Levere, is going to be here January 22nd from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. It will be at Matilaha Campus Cafeteria. And just to let you know, some of the topics that we've requested that he speak about are the status of the land lease for the Miners Oaks Park, threats to Lake Casitas and federal lands that are around the valley where we live, homeless issues, protection of our undocumented neighbors, and probably more topics. We hope he will cover these, though. They were specifically requested. And we would like to invite the community to come. It's a free event, so you can just show up at 6 o'clock and join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Cameron Ransom.
Thank you all. I hope that's appropriately auditory. Good evening, all of you. I appreciate everything you guys do for our community. My biggest concern, the first thing I want to bring up is, of course, the trolley. We did have this. It was, and I've spoken with Ben, and I've spoken with Norma. This used to be something that was every half hour. It was regular. I've lived here for 35 years, all of my life. And the service is no longer the same. Sometimes it's very late. Sometimes it doesn't show up at all. We don't have a trolley A. We don't have a trolley B. The service is not what it used to be, and it was fantastic. Most of the people who ride this trolley are people who, they're older, they're kids, they're disabled, they're working class people. I think it's very important to have this service, and I'd like to see it expanded further into Oakview and Miramonte, just to do what we can for people who actually work for a living, because those are most of the people who ride this. And at this point, it just doesn't work for us. And then I know, Stephen, I don't know you personally, but I would like to say that I'm very concerned that at our bus stops, we do have a lot of problems where we still have people who are homeless or even doing drugs potentially, and that's not being monitored. And I think a lot of people who do tourism here and they come here, they would appreciate it if we had a good working public transit system that was on a regular basis, that came by fairly frequently. I think that would really help us. I think it would really help our businesses, and I think it would do much better for our entire community. So anyways, my time is almost up. Thank you all.
Thank you. Weston, do we have anyone online?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. We currently have Mike Donahue. Mike, you have the ability to unmute and speak, and we currently have no more raised hands after that.
Thank you. And thank you, City Council. My concern tonight is about transparency, honesty, and transparency. I only have time for 3 examples, but they paint a troubling picture. First example, a citizen who followed the rules and filed a proper records request. He said in frustration, quote, "City Council, nearly 5 months have now transpired since my proper request, June 27th, for records. Still, not a single document has been produced. This non-response is a continuing violation of the requirements of the California Government Code," unquote. Now, well over 5 months, he and his wife still do not have the documents that they are legally entitled to. That is not transparency. Second example, an Ojai planning commissioner raised a very clear procedural issue. He said, quote, "Ojai Municipal Code, Table 2-7 states that the density requirement for the land is to be determined by the Planning Commission through the development review process. The density for the site in question was not brought before the Planning Commission for review," unquote. He never received the density report. His concern was never addressed. It simply disappeared, quietly and without explanation. That is not transparency. The third example is a construction management official from Camarillo, someone who enforces California state code. He had to reprimand the city twice. Alexa, off, please. He had to reprimand the city twice regarding the construction bidding process. Meanwhile, citizens still don't know what quote unquote sole source or sole provider is. And the city council and the attorneys have used that regularly. He said, quote, "The California Uniform Construction Act requires that all components of a project's construction work be formally bid. Additionally, the city and its proxy cannot perform self-work." He went on to say that we could be in violation of the act. That is a serious warning, and the public still has no clear explanation. So council and community members, I'll leave you with this reminder. California Civil Code 710 defines deceit as intentional representation, negligent representation, concealment, and false promise. We're better than this. Play with all your cards up. Play with them face up. We have nothing to hide. Honesty and transparency. Please embrace it. Thank you.
No more raised hands, Mayor Pro
All
Tem.
right, thank you. We'll now close the public communications portion of the meeting and move on to consent calendar. Does anyone have any items from the consent calendar that you would like to pull?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to pull 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Can,
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
My dearest apologies. I had
Okay.
one more public card from Jacob.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
He submitted it as the last speaker was speaking. Thank you, Jacob, for waiting.
All right, Jacob. We'll open back up the public communications and Jake.
Hello, hi. How's it going, everyone? My name is Jacob Acosta, 27 years old. I lived in Ojai for 5 years, and I have recently received 3 projects that I want to present to you guys. The first one is the Ojai Dam project. The second one is the Ojai Eco Living Village, and the third one is the Ojai Visitors Map. I have some copies I could hand out. If you guys want to check it out.
You can hand them to our city clerk.
And so 2 minutes. The Ojai Dam project is about utilizing the dam and doing a steelhead trout foundation charity where people come use the dam, and it would be swimming pools, so it would be like $13 for a day pass. And the dam could be used for producing electricity and also for breeding fish and trout. And it could also maybe power all of Ojai, but I didn't touch that. I just want to say swimming pools, hot springs, trout, save the dam, remove all the sediment, and see if that works. Then the second project is for the homeless community. I titled it as an eco living village because it sounds better, and also for lower income housing, like around $900 to $1,200 per month. And what it'd be is shipping containers and geodesic domes. The shipping containers would not have any amenities like showers and bathrooms and kitchens. All of that would be in a separate container or facility. So all they're having is a bedroom and a place to work. And then the third is I don't know if you've been to Solvang, but Solvang has a great map, like a brochure, and it has everything in Ojai, like go to the breakfast club over here, go to the lunch, check out this tourist attraction. So having like kind of a map and showing like what companies and businesses are in town that also provide to the city of Ojai. And then for the trolley, the e-train, it should be like a e-trolley where we get some AI chip that runs in like sensors. So there'd be like 10 in like circulation all at once. And we'd have to figure out how Elon would do that. And then that's pretty much it for right now.
Great.
So-
All right. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Mhm.
And we'll make sure that we receive the information that you sent out. Okay, now we will close our public communications and moving back to the consent calendar. So we have a motion to pull 7, 8, 9, and 10. Can I get a motion for the approval of the other consent calendar items?
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, great.
Yes. Motion and second for items 3 through 6. Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Councilmember Meng.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, excellent. And we do have a public comment on item number 7. Should we take that first before we?
I would say we should probably, Ms. Cho has joined us up here at the dais. So if there are, this is a consent calendar item,
Mhm.
so we don't have a presentation that goes with this. So if we could receive the questions on the item we can address them to the council. When the questions have been answered, I would suggest that you then go have a public
Great.
comment.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so I have there's a general purpose, and then there's applying to all four of these, and then there's some more specific on each item. So the general purpose is that we have not seen the 2025, 2026 actual figures as compared to the approved fiscal year budget. You know, so budgeted versus actual expense. We're not receiving that information. We've asked for that information. It makes it very difficult to assess where we are in terms of being able to approve a project as a fiscally sound, or approve a proposal or a contract as something that's fiscally sound for the city, when we have not complete information concerning our finances. So the year's half over on the fiscal calendar year, but we haven't seen last year's finals. And there's mention of rolling over of funds, and I'm not sure we voted to do that. And so, you know, I guess I have a very general question on all of these expenditure items. When can we expect to see a more detailed financial report that gives us budgeted versus actual, as well as the final 2025 results? The more specific questions I have is, so on item number 7, we don't have a scope of services attached to this item, and it's not clear to me how long we're going to continue retaining this firm. And I'm not sure I understand why I'm sure that I don't understand why we're increasing from 75,000 to 160,000. I'm not clear the distinction between the services provided between the two different accounting firms. I think they're on, I'm not sure which the other item is, but I would really like to understand if it's, you know, this firm is doing these types of services, this firm is doing distinct services. It would be help us to understand what we're being asked to spend money on. And let's see. Those are my questions about item 7.
So I can start, and then I can ask Ms. Cho to fill in where I leave off. So we're expecting the year-end actuals, I believe, at the end of January. That's our timeline, and we actually have talked about it at this meeting before recently. I know we've talked about the receipt timeline of that. So that's when those are coming. We have a finance and budget committee that is timed to receive those and go through those, and then we'll be bringing those back as part of the mid-year budget. I get that part correct? Okay. MV Chang and Associates provides accountant services because we are missing an accountant position. We have been trying to recruit for this. In fact, we went through a whole recruitment process, including a testing component of it, and the candidates that advanced through the interview process were unsuccessful in the testing process. It's not just the city of Ojai that's having a hard time finding these types of positions. This is kind of a statewide issue. It's hard to find accountants, and so we continue to need this type of service in order to keep current on our accountant functions. And you want to add anything to that, Ms. Cho?
Just to add, for MV Chain, as City Manager Harvey explained, we do have a vacancy in the accountant position, and with the turnover in staffs and transitions, they have been helping with more of the day-to-day accountant level, as well as keeping or bringing up to date some of the record retentions and being able to provide those timely for when we come to audit. So just cleaning up kind of the files so that we're better prepared going into the audit process, which is to be expected the first 2 weeks of February. So that's why our timeline is, we're going to stick to the timeline of end of January, we'll have unaudited actuals and have a final trial balance to provide to the auditors. So with that, yes, MV Chain mostly supports the daily operations, specifically the accountant vacancy, as well as making sure day-to-day operations flow without any disruption. It is a little difficult when, as you mentioned, we're still trying to close up 24-25 and we're going into mid-year adjustment for 25-26. So we are working on different fiscal years, different timelines. So they also assist to make sure that day-to-day continues as we're trying to close out the prior year and go through the audit process.
The other thing I'd like to add is, you know, we have some long-standing neglect and system issues that we have been fixing for, you know, the past year or so, and it is going to take some time to get everything in order, and it's the process. The first step was we brought in an interim finance director, and we were following the list generated by one of the other contractors that you're questioning. That's Ide Bailey. They determined all the high-level areas where we need assistance or systems in the finance department, and so that is the other side of the contract service that we're bringing forward to you tonight. These bigger enterprise-wide projects, things relating to moving to an automated accounts payable system, electronic timesheets, systems that are not in place. We're still using paper timesheets right now. This is the only place I've worked in the last 20 years that has done that. So we have some updating that we need to do, and it takes some time to get there. We have entire components of our finance system that were never activated. So we're doing that now. We're bringing them online. We have a new director. We have a new accounting manager. That's going to be very helpful, and we're getting there. But it is a process. And we're, as you saw from the last meeting we had, where Ide Bailey was here, we're making great progress on that list of items we need to address, but there's still more to do. And we think finance is very important, just like you do. It's the backbone of our operation, and we need to have a good position.
That just brings up a question. A few months ago, I'm not sure the exact time, where you said when we were talking about this that we were 90% at our goal, like where we needed to be. And then now with the new stuff, it's like, no, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, you said, no, it's going to be, you know, another year to get caught up. So is there any way?
So what I said, so we were talking about the Ide Bailey list and where we stood as far as addressing the items on the Ide Bailey list. What I was speaking to, I believe in the last meeting, asking for a year, was from the Kroll report of other areas internally. Those aren't just in the finance department. Those are throughout the city where we need to tighten up systems. That's being led by Christy Billings, who is our former interim finance director. But that's separate, and that's not just related to finance. That deals with every single department.
Okay. And then one other question, I didn't see it in here in the contract, the dollar amount, what we're paying MV Chang.
The rates, and I believe Ms. Cho, yes, thank you. That is that we neglected to include the proposal. That should have been done, and the rates are in there. Do you want to expound upon that?
Currently, we have two members from Ms. C. Chang or MV Chang. One is at the senior accountant level at a rate of $80 an hour, and the account tech level at $50 an hour. They are charged hourly, so it's actual hours worked. It does range depending on the need of that, week or period. So yes, you'll see varying amounts of invoice on the invoices. For example, November, December might be a little lower because of all the holidays. They are on a part-time basis.
And then when they come into work, are they remote or do they come into the office?
It's a mixture of both. We have some who come into the office because they are helping with for example, record retention or, you know, helping our staff with the day-to-day AP process, for example. So that member is in the office, and then we have another at the accountant level who is hybrid.
Do you have too many questions?
No. There are so many questions I don't even know where to begin. I don't understand this. I feel like I never am able to get a handle on what's actually going on. I listen to Bailey, I listen to Kroll, and they're like, you know, there's so much wrong here. But we've been told that it's being worked on. And then then Bailey comes up with their presentation, and it's like, oh, no, we're doing great. I mean, we are all in the go. And to me, the discrepancy between those two presentations was a huge red flag. And I don't know how to untangle this. I don't have the skills to untangle it. But over the course of this last year, my inability to grasp or grapple with any of this is very concerning to me. And I am not an expert, but I should be able to follow what's going on, and I simply cannot. And that's worrisome to me when I look at a warrants that says we spent $500,000, right? But yet when we bring in a grant, for instance, for high school, we're confused as to whether or not we can afford $50,000. So those are the kinds of things that mostly concern me. You know, I don't have any sense that there's a plan here. I don't have any sense that there is documentation as to specifically what we need to do and to follow it through and give us updates on that so that we actually can understand to the degree that we can. Once again, I'm not an expert, but I can follow basic work plans. So those are my concerns. It is a broader concern, but it's, you know, and with having new staff, I think we have spoken about that, you know, Ms. Cho, I'm sure you are great, but you've not been a finance director before. Our finance manager, I'm sure also is highly qualified, but she was not a finance manager before. She was an accountant. So, you know, it's this cumulative effect of just uncertainty that is really concerning me. And I don't know even how to fix it, honestly.
So there are several things that you brought up, and let's unpack a few of them one at a time. The Ide Bailey report, which is out there, which has been on our city website since November of 24, is, you know, an observation and an assessment from a third-party firm as to what needed to be addressed in the finance department. That is separate and distinct from the Kroll report. The Kroll report was a forensic accounting exercise in the wake of, you know, the termination of the former assistant city manager. They're not the same things. They're very different things, and their goals were very different. One was trying to find the weaknesses in the city as a whole that could have been exploited during the time that Mr. Alameda was here. That was the Kroll report. We talked about, when that presentation was given, how we were going to follow up with that. So how we're going to follow up with it, we have the presentation. That's also on the city website. We've asked Ms. Billings to lead the effort to go through all the findings from the Kroll report, working with all the city departments that are impacted, and fix them, and to come back on a quarterly basis and to give the city council an update. That's what we said we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. Going back to the Ide Bailey report, yeah, we have achieved about 90% of the things that they have outlined, but we're not completely there yet, and we still have vacancies in the department that require assistance. Notably, we don't have an accountant. The people that we have hired to do the director and the accounting manager position, we're fortunate to have, and they're highly qualified. And Ms. Palmer was more than an accountant in her prior role. They were both in leadership positions from the cities where they came. Ms. Cho has a CPA. These are highly credentialed, qualified people that are more than adequate and qualified to do the jobs that they're asked to do, and we're fortunate to have them.
What about her, Ms. Palmer's?
If I may,
Yep.
I think we need to make sure that we keep the discussion tonight focused on the MV Chain contract and the Eid Bailey contract, and if we need to bring another, we've been staying fairly close to that. I want to make sure that we're
Let me just answer
veering-
the last item, which was spoken to. The city council has 100% of its general fund expenditures held in reserve, 100%, and this council knows that. And you've got over 100%. So if you want to spend any portion of that on a policy decision, like a grant, like a program, like a piece of infrastructure, that's a policy decision that you can make. You have the money to do that. You have the money to do that, okay? Does it impact other things potentially? Yes. Could you spend all of it without some type of consequence? No. But, this council knows that you have that in reserves right now sitting there. We've talked about that a lot.
Yes, we have. And so I will just state that that's true, but the council has some reluctance to spend money until the books have been balanced.
That's
And,
fine.
So
We understand
once again, it has to do with, understanding what's going on and really getting a clear picture. And I think that fundamentally these expenditures seem to be sapping that away, and we're unclear as to when that might end.
So-
But I do want to keep it focused on the topic. I don't want to. I just wanted to state my confusion and concern over my level of confusion.
I get it. And I would also offer Ms. Cho and I are available to meet with any of you at any time to talk about any confusions that you might have. We're always ready to do that. So the last thing I want to say, sorry, just give me one more moment. There is an attachment to a couple of these items where we go through the contract services and where we're at in the budget, and the staff and where we're at in the budget. And this was provided to respond to questions as we don't know what we spent, where we're at. Here you go. This is in these reports that you can see clearly. The headline is you're a little under in your contract, you're a little over in your positions. I get the other way around. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's why I don't explain these items all the time. But that's, and we've listed, who the consultants are being used and what are the positions that are being funded. That's all in here. And that's,
And then are you, I know Ms. Palmer, she's expecting a baby, so you have
Mhm.
maternity leave. So is somebody already in the works to
Yes.
step up while she's out?
So Ms. Billings is going to backfill Ms. Palmer when she is out on maternity leave. Ms. Palmer is advised that, she is due in early February, and she's not planning on being gone for an extended, maternity leave, but of course she needs to take care of
Right.
her
No,
newborn.
I get it. I understand.
But
Yeah.
Ms. Billings will be able to backfill for her.
So is there any way, I'm just thinking like moving forward to have, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful or anything like that, so please understand that. Because it just seems that we haven't got straight answers and all that stuff, where I don't know if you guys could get together and maybe come up with some kind of a plan, a game plan, so we know, so it helps with the questions, like by this date. So we feel like things are just never ending. Like it just keeps going on and we don't see anything being accomplished. Whether it just doesn't feel like it's shared or whatever, where if we could have something, a timeline that we know by this date, this is going to be done, like, would we say, the end of January, we'll have the books and all of that stuff.
So we can give you an update during the mid-year budget, which is coming in February. I think that's probably the most appropriate time to talk about status and where we are. And then, of course, we'll be rolling right into next year's budget at that point.
Okay.
So I do have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the issues here is that we have not been able to employ a staff accountant. And, you know, I'm not 100% clear on what our plan is, whether we're going to continue contracting indefinitely to fill the position, or whether there's any, you know, strategy about retaining somebody. And I'm not going to go, you know, down this rabbit hole, but it does fit with something that I think all of the council has expressed, you know, interest in, and that is, you know, can we work on strategies to have full-time staff, you know, our employees, because I think we've all have expressed a goal of that institutional memory that comes with that.
So yes, we plan on going out for an accountant recruitment again. However, because we just wrapped up the entire process with the testing, we don't feel that if we launch the recruitment right now, immediately, we would be necessarily successful. We're going to try to tap into our professional networks. There's a CSMFO conference coming up. When is that coming up? Remind me.
End of February.
Yeah. So we're trying to, you know, at the conferences and the regional meetings that we attend, to see if there's, you know, leads that we can have for somebody that might be willing to take that position in-house. We understand council wants to fill that. We want to fill it too. But at the same time, in the meantime, we have a need for the work to be done. And so that's why this item is with us. But we get your direction. Kathy Holman is probably, you know, losing her mind over this one, because it's very frustrating to go through the whole process, including the testing, and have every single candidate not tested a level that would be acceptable to come in here to do the work.
So they're coming in, so I'm just wondering if the offered compensation is something, I hear that you're bringing them in, but like, is that comparable for people?
Yes, so the compensation level, well, not this particular council, the council prior raised everybody up to market. We're gonna come back to you this year and ask you to take a look at our salary survey again, and some positions might need to be raised again, and maybe this is one of them. But what I've learned from talking to my colleagues is I'm not unique. We're not unique in this problem. Finance in general is a tough recruitment. Any finance position, if you have kids out there who are considering what to go into finance, my goodness, it's not easy to find people that are qualified. And government accounting is not the same as private sector accounting. It is different. So that is another challenge.
So I do have one more question, and, you know, I had considered not approving, just because I'm not happy about not having as much information as I want, but I'm gathering, based upon everything that's been said, that not approving this contract that item 7 represents, it means that we just make the problem worse. Is that correct?
I would agree with that. You're hampering our efforts. We get that you want to fill this with an in-house person. We were working to do that.
Yeah, but it's not just that, it's getting the overall handle on, you know, how the financial situation.
Yeah, two near future opportunities. One is, of course, the Finance and Budget Committee, which is coming up at the end of January this month, where we're going to have the actuals and we're going to meet with the Finance and Budget Committee. That is an opportunity for the council and the public to be aware of where we're headed. But more importantly is the mid-year budget presentation, which is the first meeting in February, where we will have that as part of our baseline, and we can come to you. You're likely going to be in a positive position. You know, we adopted a budget without including the anticipated revenue, the TOT revenue from a new hotel you brought online. That has been operational since the July timeframe. It hasn't been at full capacity that whole time, but it has been at fairly decent occupancy rate, and that was not included in your revenue by choice, just because we didn't have any solid indicators that they were going to be able to come in line this fiscal year. So you're bringing in more revenue that you weren't anticipating. Other establishments in town, you know, from our TOT audits, we know that they have done well. It does not, you know, it's not a year where they've lost money or have been unable to attract people to come to town. There has also been new restaurants brought online, which brings on sales tax. So you have grown your revenue base, and our expense base has not really exceeded that because we have some positions that are unfilled, we haven't gone over what's been allocated for within the budget. So I don't want to spoil your mid-year, but I think that's kind of the headline that you're going to see.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, as budget adjustments are approved through City Council, Finance is keeping track of all those adjustments. So we do have a list that we had reviewed at the last Finance and Budget Committee. So it does seem like a lot of adjustments are made. Not all of them are hitting the general fund. So we are still at over 100% reserve based on prior year's budgeted numbers. And those budgeted numbers are on the expense side higher than what have come in, and that's how it looks. So that reserve percentage will actually be higher than what we had originally calculated at about 103%, given the adjustments that were made through November of 2025.
Okay. So if I just so I understand what you just said, the projection is that even with these expenses, we're not gonna, be dipping below our budgeted expectations.
Yes. So up until November or December of last year, all the budget adjustments that were, I guess, the fiscal impacts that were made and approved by City Council, yes, we will still be over the 100% reserve, and maybe a little bit more than when we calculated at the last Finance and Budget Committee due to expenses coming in lower than budgeted. We're at about $800,000 of adjustments that hit the general fund, and with other funds that have been impacted through City Council actions, that's another about $700,000. So looking at the general fund, we are still above the 100% reserve policy. And we're keeping track as we're going along. So if it's something that you would like to see when there's like a fiscal impact, I guess, budget adjustment on a report, we can look to include that list if that is the direction.
Yeah, I have a question. Is the current vacant position in our budget this year?
Mhm.
So would I be correct in saying that there's that in some ways working with a consultant and not having that position filled would result in a balance, in a budgetary balance, or
Essentially a wash.
compensate?
So one bucket's higher, one bucket's lower. It's essentially, you're correct.
It's an offset, but it's not
Right.
exactly equal.
Exactly
Yes.
right.
Okay. I'd like to take a public comment unless anybody else has any more questions.
I just have one quick question. When it says that for the accountant position remains vacant and recruitment will begin again early 2026, when is early 2026?
I'm gonna sit down with Kathy and talk about this upcoming conference that we're sending finance staff to, because really this is how we're able to really find people in the finance areas. We have to tap into our network. So we're going to have to divide and conquer. Who do you know? Who just left? Who moved here? We're going to do some detective work to track these people down, because just putting up an announcement that, hey, we're hiring an accountant has not been fruitful. So we're going to really try to work our professional channels.
Yeah, and if I could just add, we also wanted to wait until after the holiday season to,
Sure.
Get the most, I guess, traction. But yes, Ms. Holman and I did discuss opening that recruitment. We also wanted to kind of leave some time, after we didn't have a successful candidate, but also wait for the holidays to get more momentum and, of course, network at upcoming conferences.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, then we will have public comment. Mr. Clay Creasy.
Hello again. Several observations on this, number 7 as well as number 10, which are peas in a pod. Number one, I 100% agree that the finance process here is in extreme need of help. Having sat through the Eid Bailey and oral presentations, that should be obvious to anybody. I do have decades of finance experience for virtually every job in the finance division I've had at one point or another. So I think I know what I'm talking about. Second thing, the notion that the Kroll report is the cause for an extra year because it's covering stuff that is non-financial is largely not correct. But that's also largely irrelevant because all the financial issues that need to be fixed is what's driving the year estimate. I think the 90% estimate was probably an off-the-cuff number, which was underinformed, but we don't really need to worry about that. What you have is a year-long intensive project which has to get done. I think Ms. Cho is absolutely the right person to help make that happen. But I also think that you need a project leader who is going to bring several things to the party, which are very important. Number one, a sense of urgency. Number two, a sense of clarity and transparency that reports back to you at every meeting, perhaps not more than 3 minutes, who knows what, but enough time and enough clarity and enough detail so that you have confidence that you know what has to be done, project by project. Where are we? How much is it costing? Who's doing it? Who's ahead of schedule? Who's behind schedule? All the things that project management needs to have happen for it to work. You need a subcommittee of responsible people to oversee this because it's really not what the city council should be spending their time on. I would propose a subcommittee potentially of one or more members of your finance and budget committee. Ms. Cho obviously would be part of that. Potentially, if you do go ahead with hiring the Eid Bailey folks, one person there. But this is not rocket science, but you cannot just airmail it. Finally, I'll say, as I pointed out in an email earlier today, the reason you haven't hired an accountant up to now has nothing to do with the structural issues of accountant job market in general. It has to do with the fact that we're not offering enough money. You need to increase the pay scale for the accountants, and I guarantee you will get people who will pass that test. We should not wait till the end of February to go to a conference to potentially maybe find some people who are looking for a job there. You need to get that job posting out this week at the right salary level and get candidates in right away. You need a sense of urgency, which we don't have right now because there's zero clarity and zero accountability. But you need to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Weston, do we have any comments online?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right.
So, like I said, I pulled this item and, in conjunction with number 10, I was considering not approving, but I think I've changed my mind on that in terms of I think we'll be less informed about our finances as opposed to more informed if we don't go ahead and approve the only accountant services that we have to fill the gap. So I would like to see as a future item in the near future that we are given advice about what we do need to offer to attract a high quality accountant to join the staff, and or whether the suggestion that we're not getting candidates because we're not offering enough money is an accurate assessment. We need to hear that too, but if that is an accurate assessment, I'd like to know what it is that we might have to approve in terms of that salary to get somebody who wants to work here.
Could I address our city attorney? If we indeed wanted to move forward with having a subcommittee in the finance department, how would we best move forward with that? I know that it can't be a discussion here. Would it just be an agenda item, or how would you recommend we move forward if we wanted to investigate that possibility?
I think the best thing to do would be to allow staff an opportunity to work with our office to investigate the best way to bring that back, and then we can discuss bringing that back at a future agenda item for further discussion. I just want to make sure that we would kind of understand what the role and scope of that might be, and bring that back for a kind of a fully agendized item for discussion with City Council.
Okay.
Right. And what about bringing forward an agenda item for inquiring about Councilmember Whitman's question?
If there's consensus that you
Mhm.
want us to bring that back, of course, we can bring that back too.
Yes.
We are planning on bringing back a request for a comprehensive salary schedule, salary survey as well. But this can be separate if you need to jump that position up to a higher category. It's not consistent with, market data. We understand that. If that's an idea that could attract someone, sure.
Okay.
Do you, I guess the city attorney again, I felt a particular sort of connection with the idea of a sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
So that was particularly resonant with me. So when we say, we'd like to meet with so-and-so, like how can we make even the process of getting to a sense of urgency urgent? In other words, I don't want it to get lost in the mire. The urgency is not just to move forward with the, there's got to be an urgency in the process to get to that point as well. So maybe we should think on that as well. Like, and once again, it has to be, it's a consensus among the council as to what is that a priority for us? So sooner rather than later, and how do we, infuse a sense of urgency into the process of getting to an urgent, a sense of urgency?
Right. I mean, I definitely heard that there was a sense of urgency because every other decision that we make is contingent upon having a clear sense of the budget.
And I appreciate, I totally appreciate, I feel like, knowing that we have over 100% of our reserves still there, I appreciate that, and that is a somewhat liberating sense that, we haven't really fallen behind, but also it's hard for me to sit here and listen to, we don't know how much money we have, we don't know what we can do with it, we don't know if we can spend $50,000. That simply is something that we need to dissipate. That can't be, the discussion at every council meeting dealing with budgets.
Okay, so can I ask for perhaps a motion to?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
The mid-year budget is coming on the first meeting in February. The very next meeting that you have from this meeting is already completely stacked. We need some time to get ready for the mid-year budget, and I think that is very near term.
Mm-hmm.
That is not that far away. That is less than 30 days away from now.
But we already know, we've already gotten the.
You have, but I think you'll see you'll see on paper the information that confirms what Ms. Cho has been saying, and I don't know that even if we wanted to do that before then, we'd be able to, because we're waiting for the actuals to show up, and we need to finish some of our reporting. We have to go to the Finance and Budget Committee before we come to you. This is all very scripted because that's what you asked us to do, to go first to the Finance and Budget Committee. So we're doing that.
Right. So perhaps the Finance and Budget Committee would be a place to actually try to roadmap this out, as to what.
It could be a recommendation from them, which is fine.
An analysis and recommendation,
Sure.
so agendize it through them, through that meeting, that group, and take the recommendations from there. I think that would help fast track it. As far as, investigating possibilities and potentials. And I look forward to the mid-year review. I still haven't gotten over the fact that we didn't put in the El Robar TOT in our budget. Because, of course, now everything's going to look rosy.
Well, but we just, we did that
okay.
deliberately because in speaking with the operating team at that time, and there were some major structural issues in the building that we just were not sure that they were going to overcome. And my goodness, they paid people to work at, overtime and at night, and that's how they did it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'd move to approve the expenditure for item 7 with the condition that that we have the specific subject of the salary for our accountant position addressed at the earliest feasible opportunity.
Great. Okay, do we have a second for that? I'll second it if no one else wants to.
Motion understood. Roll call. Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Mang.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Likewise, I'm very torn. With 2 yeses, I could abstain, but I'm going to say yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. And Councilmember Whitman, you also pulled item number 8.
Yeah, and I'll just address 8 and 9 because it's the same essential contract. And I just I remember very much the going through this process with our attorneys and the trial that started and then didn't start, and I'm guessing that we're now looking at the idea that we didn't say let's try it today, and now so is these further fees related to bringing the tax dispute to a conclusion? And how much longer is this going on, and or is this the end of what we're going to be spending on this particular issue?
So yes, you're correct. This is a result of what happened in that TOT hearing and the direction to postpone that. You may recall from that meeting that there were 2 attorneys present. There was prep work involved, and it's very expensive. But council made a decision, and it was based upon what the concerns that were raised, and so that's, yes, that is why this is. I suspect, we've had lots of time to prepare for this. That again, this is gonna be a decision for council to make, but what is being presented should be very clear. What we're gonna ask is going to be very clear, and you will decide.
And if I may add here, as I think it's helpful to understand that from a legal services standpoint, these are services, and I understand council is likely aware of this, but I wasn't here for those previous discussions, that these contracts are both related to ensuring that there is conflict counsel to represent staff in those administrative proceedings. Because the city attorney's office will represent the city council, and because it's an adjudicatory proceeding, it's important to ensure that staff also has, on a complicated matter, to ensure that staff also has counsel to provide representation.
And do we have a sense of when this is going to be concluded?
I don't know if I can answer when it will be concluded, but I know that Ms. Cho and I are meeting later this week to talk about next steps on that.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that these are 2 different service contracts for essentially the same issue. So there are 2 different locations, but they will be adjudicated. All of the issues are the same. So we're not really talking about, we're talking about double the money for the same process because we have 2 properties, but it's the same process. So lest we actually believe that it's going to be not to exceed 60,000. It's going to be not to exceed 120,000. And I just want to make that clear because we're talking about coming through with a legal interpretation that is relevant to both properties. So I just, the fact that it was split up for me was a little bit confusing because they're owned by the same people. They have the same complaints. You know, so that to me was.
You're correct. I could just jump in and Ms. Cho Burgess will correct me if I'm wrong, but the potential offset is the TOT that you may or may not have received had you not had this brought to your attention. Right. So you're spending money on this effort, but in doing so, you're ensuring that you're receiving the proceeds that may have not come to the city.
Oh no, I understand that. I understand what the issue is.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand the ramifications across all of the TOT.
That's right. That's
on
right.
this.
That's right.
So you know, win or lose, I don't know, but it's going to affect. It's an interpretation of the TOT, and it's going to be adjudicated, and we're going to have to follow that win or lose. So potentially, you know, we could, you know. Yes, I understand that. Thank you. That's not an issue.
Council is making that decision, and the remedy if the appellant doesn't like that decision is Superior Court.
That's correct.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
And if once those decisions are made, if there is a further appeal, that would be the scenario where we might be back before you seeking a further amendment to these contracts.
Yeah, these contracts are not taking us to trial. Is that correct? No. Right. So if we go to trial,
they're taking us to an administrative decision.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions before we go to public comments? Okay. Bill Miley.
I actually do have a quick question. So that the administrative decision is going to be binding on all of the.
They can appeal it to they can
It
sue
would
us
be an
in
appealable
court.
decision.
Yeah.
So if it's not appealed, it's a final decision, and if it is appealed, it would be appealed.
But
to
they
a
have to take
court.
the city to court and to do that. So.
Right. So to appeal that decision would be to take the city to court, and then once you get a judgment, then there will be yet another appeal, possibly, because you can appeal a court decision. So we're just looking at.
There's potentially.
Yeah.
I would hate to predict the.
I mean, I
outcome
wouldn't
of that
predict it
whole
either,
process.
but living the lie, I know. So the other thing, of course, is that this is across the board for all of the hotels. I mean, this will be relevant
That's
and
right.
and applicable
That's
across
right.
the board.
And the other thing, and I know that you know this, just for more of the public, I mean, the council can also decide to, you know, that this might be the money owed. Council can decide something different.
Yeah, for sure.
But that would be for a later discussion,
Yes,
not
it
the
will.
contract.
Yes, it will.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take. Go ahead, Mr. Miley.
Hi. I was at the first hearing, so I know a little bit about this. And what you just said answered part of my question. It's a litigation. It's a big issue here. As I remember, the amount of money involved was like $9,000. And it has to do, to tell people who are watching this, as to whether or not a guest who comes to a hotel, rents a room, and then asks for additional services to be provided them, like drinks and food and whatever, a massage. And the people who own these two hotels are making the case that TOT should not be applied to anything added beyond the room. That's what I understand. Is that correct?
Mostly.
Mr. Miley, we can't get into the specifics of the matter.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say that's what it is. So the issue is not the money right now. It's the principle. It would seem to me that throughout the state of California, this should have been adjudicated a long time ago, and not just in Little Ojai. Thank you.
Thank you. Weston, do we have any comments online?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
I just, sorry, I
Okay,
have
go
to
ahead.
add this because some of you know this, some of you may not, but that is a unique thing about the state of California. It's not the way it is in every single state. You probably know this, but you're able to levy local taxes. And that's a very important local control that you have here in Ojai. You still have to adhere to all the 218 rules and everything, but some states, you are preempted from doing that. The state gives the cities an apportionment. So that's unique to California and some other states.
That's all. Excuse me, that's all the comments, right?
That's all the comments, yes.
I just have a quick question. With consent items, it seems like recently, the last few months, like me personally, I think something like this with a contract or whatever, that it feels to me like it should be a discussion item. Like there's a lot of information that needs to be in a consent if we didn't question. So I don't, is that something that can change until we work together with the new attorneys and get things where we're comfortable? And
I will be taking a close look at on the working agenda document to identify anything that's on the consent calendar that I sense may want more discussion. So we'll really take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd move to approve item number 8, and if it's not completely off base, I'd also move to approve item number 9 because the discussion is identical.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay.
Roll call, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Councilmember Meng.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
All right. And number 10.
So as far as my questions go, we pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Discussion for Wang, so I don't really have, I think my attitude's the same. So I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Does anyone else, we have a public comment on this one. Does anyone else have any questions before we go to public comments?
I did write down a question, but it's probably good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Clay Creasy.
Thank you again. Maybe a little less fire and brimstone this time, but seeing how you voted on number 7, which obviously there were some mixed feelings going on, I'm thinking with number 10, because it's Eide Bailey, because they're much more focused towards the system enhancement installation type of work, as opposed to the daily help close the books work, you could have as an alternative to approving this contract extension tonight, a scenario where the Eide Bailey representative met with the Finance and Budget Committee members or this hypothetical subcommittee that we talked about and present a proposal as to how they might help the city do the various system upgrades and installations and process enhancements that we think might take the year plus. To me, that would be a logical way to go. Not approve this tonight, but condition that action on an early meeting with Eide Bailey and the city finance staff and the Finance and Budget Committee. Obviously, that needs to get agendized and set up, scheduled. But I think that would allow us to get past the point of buying a pig in a poke, which is what this agenda item is right now, and have a much better idea of what you're getting, what the time frame would be. Is this just for the last 6 months of this fiscal year, or is it going to extend to next fiscal year as well? Theoretically, you could even bid this contract. If it looks like it's bigger than a bread box, maybe we want to have more than just Eide Bailey look at helping us. So those are some thoughts that I just share with you as you debate to this item 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments online?
No.
Okay.
Just point of clarification. The timeline is not a year plus on the side. So again, we're mixing items up again. So I think what is important to remember is I had said, and I understand that not everybody agrees with my perspective on this, but for the Kroll report, I had said, because it involves multiple city departments and systems that need to be improved, that might take up to a year to get that addressed. That is separate and distinct from the work that Ide Bailey is doing in the finance department. That is a different thing. Christy Billings is overseeing the findings from the Kroll report, working with individual city departments. We're going to be coming back to you and reporting quarterly on our progress. This is, Ms. Cho, would you talk specifically about what your expectations are of Ide Bailey in the finance department with this contract and what the timeline that you anticipate will be involved?
Yes. So a couple points to make. So Ide Bailey does provide a lot of assistance with, as Mr. Creasy mentioned, system implementation, also implementing best practices and policies and procedures. But we are also having discussions based on how the accounting has been done historically with the city, which is causing some delay. For example, more than anticipated. When I first came in, I came in end of October. That's not very typical that you're still trying to close your books. But they are, we are having discussions with, revisiting our chart of accounts, looking at the groupings to make it more efficient in the future so it's more streamlined. Part of the year-end and process, involves heavy lifting and a lot of journal entries that can be avoided if we restructure the chart of accounts, for example, and that will in turn, have a long-term effect, and it will address some of the challenges that are in place. But
If I could just jump in, some of our existing processes and practices are cumbersome, redundant, and illogical, and they've just been that way because that's the way that they've been done. So with fresh eyes on it, we can see some efficiencies that we can achieve and make things more expedient.
Yeah, and I don't see the contracts with both Ide Bailey and Misty Chang to be indefinite. Once we're fully staffed and with the new software, for example, a major one that came up in the Kroll report was the PO implementation. Once we get those running and we're fully staffed, I don't imagine we'll have the contracts needed for example, MV Chang and Ide Bailey. Once we implement the processes and procedures and have a fully functioning financial software in place, I think the finance department, as staffed with 5 members, is going to be sufficient.
Do you have a question?
Yes. I understand what's been said. We're not in discussion, we're in questions, correct?
We are, the public comments are closed, so we're in discussion.
We're in discussion.
Yes.
I am strongly in favor of having an ad hoc committee work with our new finance director, our new finance manager, our new attorneys, and I'm strongly in favor of that we actually do that and that we do move with a sense of urgency. So if I could draft a motion, if I could draft a motion in my head, I certainly would, that we look to put some sort of ad hoc committee together with these players, but also with the finance committee to bring them in to determine how this moves forward.
Maybe a suggestion, if you don't mind me stepping in on you.
Certainly not.
You have a finance and budget committee coming up at the end of January.
Mm-hmm.
We could float the item at the committee for some parameters on how this might be shaped. And we could bring that item as a decision point for the council at the mid-year budget on the 10th of February.
Okay, so we would not approve this budget in the interim because
I
approve it if we still have to figure out how it's going to play out?
I wouldn't see the policy-based subcommittee basically supplanting or replacing the work that Ide Bailey is doing. I would see it as a guiding, type function.
Right. I don't. So I don't know exactly. You can tell me how to do this. I would like to ask Mr. Creasy to come back up and to elaborate on what his thinking was on this. I don't know. Would we have to then open reopen up public comments and allow him to come up and to sort of just, sketch this out a little bit more for us, what this might look like.
We would have to reopen public comment to do that, but if I may, because he is also a member of the Finance and Budget Committee.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of bringing this issue to the Finance and Budget Committee where, Mr. Creasy and other members of that committee may have a more robust discussion of how to move this forward. And that may be another option or solution to address the subcommittee or ad hoc committee.
Yeah, I agree. The only question to me is, do we approve this now, or do we wait to see how this all plays out and how Ide Bailey may, how their offerings or what we ask of them may morph, right? That's all I'm saying.
I think the one thing I would note on that, and this would be a question perhaps for the city manager or Ms. Cho, is, if the item is postponed or continued to a later meeting, what is the impact on the work that is currently being performed and on the
one of the biggest
finance
concerns,
department?
and I could jump in, Ms. Cho will jump in. I'm really very concerned on making sure that the accounts payable module is successfully launched. And Ide Bailey has been very integral in that effort. And I worry about taking them off of that. That's just going to derail that process and introduce a self-inflicted unnecessary delay. That's the most important thing that I see them addressing right now, but there are some other things, I'm sure. Ms. Cho.
So I do have a question. By signing this contract, I assume that there's nothing that prevents the direction of their services from being modified because of, say, a meeting that happens with the budget committee. So we're not pinning ourselves down to the wrong path if somebody assesses that we need to be on a different path.
Right.
We can make that change in direction at a subsequent.
Right, because also to piggyback on that, it's a not to exceed amount. It's not a contracted amount. It's not something that we're committing to. We're just committing to continuing working with their services, and we can reverse course if the budget committee or the ad hoc committee decides to do that.
To give the council some context on why I'm really concerned about accounts payable in general, that is has been one of our historical weaknesses here. There was no system in place, an electronic system that matched up an invoice and a contract with a payment. It was 100% manual, relying upon looking in files and hopefully, but not always, matching things up. Right. And so this module is, in my view, one of the more important things that really has to finally launch so that we can definitively say, oh, yes, you can't make a payment without a valid contract, and without an invoice. I'm missing some other step, I know.
So I mean, I don't need to jump in. Do you have something that you wanted to add
no,
to that?
please go first.
I was just going to say, if you feel like there is an essential module here, that's fine, but this is not all they're working on.
No.
And so I would say, let's move forward with the essential module. I'm assuming that there is a scope of work with, Ide Bailey put up, the categories, the things that they were working on, and they were specific. So I would certainly support not hindering that which is imperative or essential, but I also would support, more thought going into the system and the process of redoing the system. So, and if this contract doesn't hold us to that, but I would be surprised that there must be a scope of work. There must be things that, that we're asking them to work on.
Yeah, so the Exhibit A on this item
Yeah.
is their scope of work, and you can see, and some of it is a little bit vague simply because, they're trying to respond to the needs of the department and the director's, desires to move things forward.
Right, and so it's that particular element the needs of the department that they have yet, that they're determining, that's in process, because that's why there's not specificity to it, I'm assuming.
Sorry, a little bit. We do know the overall needs because it is the skeleton is that Ide Bailey report that they identified.
Right.
So that's that is from what they're working, and what the specific, I'm not stating this very clearly, but you have the framework from the Ide Bailey report that was, released in 24, time period. That is how they know what they need to work on with Ms. Cho and her team.
So Ms. Cho, can you tell me what you think we should do? I mean, you're hearing this in real time. We're the council. You're the expert. You're running a team of experts. What are you hearing, and what are you thinking?
For this item, I believe that it is important and it is time. They are a great help and assistance with the year-end process, and with the PL module implementation, also with the procurement policy that would go align with the module. But they are also working on different projects. So PO module policies to go align with that module. They are also assisting with the year-end entries, for example, the ones that I've mentioned that are a lot of the heavy lifting. So they, in my opinion, this is, sorry, I'm just trying to articulate.
Yeah, no.
I mean, the recommendation here is to proceed with it. I would assume that would be the
I
the
believe a delay
recommendation.
in this would, jeopardize our timeline for our January timeline for a finalized trial balance.
Thank you.
So the city manager proposed that if we, go ahead and approve this, that we would then have the budget committee look at whether the Ide Bailey scope of work aligns with what we need, and then come back to the city council at the next meeting, possibly the first meeting in February, as I understood it.
When the
So
mid-year budget is prepared.
with a recommendation about whether we need to refocus the work of Ide Bailey, and I think I'm good with that.
Great. Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I just have one quick question on page 81. I don't know if it's a typo. 3.4 termination date means June 30th, 2027.
This contract could be in place for up to that period of time, but as the Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, it's just a not to exceed. It's not you are not required. Either part, okay, there's a termination clause in here, separation
Because
clause.
this amount wouldn't take us into June of 2027.
Right.
No.
Right.
Well,
an
but
increase would have to come
but let's
back.
say that, they got in there and they didn't need to do as much as they thought. It's just covering all bases. But I think with your finance committee suggestions, we can fine tune what they're doing and bring that back at the mid-year budget time as a companion item, and you guys can look at it then.
Yeah, and I'm confused over how, I assume the finance committee can figure out what the process actually is going to be if there is an ad hoc committee, or what that is going to look like.
Yeah.
When did we first hired Ide Bailey? In late 2024, correct?
Yes.
Okay, late 2024, late 2025, early 2026.
Yeah, not to hash out all the reasons why, but they came up with their findings, and then we had a very difficult time working with leadership of the department to move forward with trying to work on the findings. That was the big significant delay.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, and I'll second the motion.
Yes, we have a motion to approve item 10 as recommended and to direct the Finance and Budget Committee to make recommendations on the focus and scope of Ide Bailey services and to return during the mid-year budget amendment recommendations. Roll call. Councilmember Mang.
I'm going to say no and just just to feel secure. And I just got this thought in my head. What if we go to the budget committee and they don't agree to it? Then So that's my reason for saying no.
Councilmember Rule.
I'm abstaining.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Motion failed.
Would anyone like to make an alternate motion? Can we have?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can have an alternate motion on as long as it's not a motion to reconsider the motion that was just.
But she voted yes. Could she
Yeah.
make
No, I can't make a, oh, I could.
I think
I look at my
good.
rules.
as long as you do it. Well, we can see.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, in my legal opinion.
Yeah.
Like, my concern is also Kim Mang's concern, is that, you know,
Right,
and it who knows how that plays out. So,
but there's nothing that's binding this. There's nothing that's binding us into work with them if the budget committee comes back and says, we want to go in a different direction or we want to change the scope of work, then there's a renegotiation. So we're not on the hook for anything, from what I understand.
Just the remainder of the contract that we're approving. So the only way that the city would be injured is if, based upon new thinking about our direction, we're obligated to pay this contractor money that we're never going to realize any benefit from. I find that difficult to believe, given the type of services. I did find that the Ide Bailey explanation of the bigger structural things that they wanted to see the city do or recommending that we would do was pretty, I thought it was a positive step. And so I don't want to interfere with them making progress, but if there are concerns about, I mean, I'm willing to constantly look at, are we going in the right direction? I'm concerned, and maybe that question has to be answered. So if we don't approve the contract, what happens to Ide Bailey's labor between now and February?
Well, more importantly, I think, and this is what Ms. Cho was raising, is they are also intertwined in our year-end effort. So if, you know, I'm hearing this council say, you know, we want to get that trial balance, we'd like it by the date that you promised. Ms. Cho has told you they're part of our effort to make sure that we get there. So if you don't have them, we don't have somebody else that can fill that gap, and I don't know what that means for being able to deliver that. I mean, you may be in a situation where I come back to you at the end of January and say, sorry, we were unable to do this because we didn't have enough hands to finish this.
Is it possible to delay the extension of the contract until the end of February? Like, is it necessary that we approve this right now? Could we come back with it?
I believe their contract, their contract's expired, right?
Well, the contract term is not expired. It's only whether or not you're out of funding.
Okay,
So to the extent that
are you ratifying expenditures that, you know,
the council could potentially ratify expenditures that are made in the interim, but
Yeah.
that presumes that Ide Bailey would be willing to perform work at risk, which they may or may not willing to do. Again, assuming that I don't know if the contract if all of the contract funds have been expended at this point, or if you're
I don't
bringing,
know.
yeah.
why would
But I also have an answer on the
Yeah.
motion to reconsider. So, a member of the prevailing side of that vote may make a motion to reconsider.
Okay.
So my concern is that you know, that presentation by Ide Bailey did not take me where I needed to go with that. After the Kroll presentation, which was to me very specific, very clear, very understandable, Ide Bailey, I was unclear as to what they had actually, you know, it wasn't clear to me, and I think that I feel like there is some sort of shifting at it's not a clear course for me. I don't see where they're going. So I would like to have the finance committee sort of delve more deeply into it. Now, what I'm hearing from you is, and from, the comments, is that they're actually doing hands-on work. So it's not actually, basically systemic work. Like the kind of initial impression was that, Chang's doing, the hands-on, they're providing the accountants, and, Ide Bailey is doing this high-level systemic work. But that's not really what I'm hearing now.
They're doing both. So in order to launch a component of an enterprise finance system, you have to be hands-on in doing that. There's nobody to point a finger to do this or do that. You have to know what you have to do in order to launch it. And so, like, going back to the purchase order system, that you have to develop the policies that go in place with it. You have to know how to train the staff on how to use it, what's required,
right,
the workflows that go with it. But they're also, separately part of the year-end effort with the journal entries. We have some junior staff in the finance department that are eager and wanting to learn, but they will know all the correct ways to make the entries so that everything reconciles appropriately. And so Ide Bailey is somebody else that can help with that.
Yep. I would like to I feel it's important to continue moving forward with closing out the end of the year, with getting the technology. We heard in the presentation back in December with Kroll and with Ide Bailey, but specifically with Kroll, the dangers of not having our finances up to technological speed. We heard the risks associated with it. They couldn't track certain things. And so I don't want to hinder any progress that's been made or stall it. Or risk having them not finish the work that they're doing. Is there a way that we could renegotiate with them, or look at extending the contract up until the end of the month when the Budget and Finance Committee, after the Budget and Finance Committee meets?
I think maybe what might be suggested, and I'd look to Ms. Cho and Ms. Burgess to help me with this one, but perhaps, the council direction could be for Ide Bailey to be focused on assisting with completing the year-end effort and launching the accounts payable module, specifically focusing on those areas. Am I neglecting something else that they're really essential on that they're helping you with?
No, those are the ones mentioned. I also
and then take further direction on what they should do, if anything. Maybe
press pause on the the structural.
Yes.
And if we have run out of money, what I understood was they could bill as they go, and there's no reason for them to assume that we wouldn't pay that bill. Is that correct?
Without a signed contract, the city has no obligation to pay them for the services they perform. Without a signed contract that provides for the dollar amount of work. So if for example, the original contract provided a not to exceed amount of $75,000, if the $75,000 has been hit, if we've reached that amount, then the city is under no further obligation to pay them for services performed in excess of the $75,000.
Okay.
I would also note, though, and this may not be helpful, but and the city manager can kick me if he's right next to me. He wouldn't, but
that's why the
staff is also recommending approval of an increase to the not to exceed amount from $75,000 to $167,000, and it may be as an alternate motion that there could be a motion to approve an increase to the not to exceed amount that is some lesser amount than the amount that was recommended.
Like 95,000?
Sure.
Or cover
100,000?
To cover these particular tasks that they're assigned.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And have the scope of the contract be limited to that, regardless of what it costs. But that's what we'll pay for. I mean, that's what we're hiring you to do until we're able to go to the
Fine.
finance committee. I mean, I'm fine with that. I
Okay.
don't want to
You know,
stall
my big
things
concern,
either.
and this is why, just we're belaboring this, but I just don't want to injure us.
Right.
We made good progress. We're going to deliver what you want, but we really need this in order to be able to do that.
Right, and I understand that, and I feel the strong need to have some urgency and oversight
Yeah.
and to bring that to the finance committee. So I'm willing
Do you
to,
want to make a motion?
I make that motion.
Okay.
That
For
that we enter into a contract with Ide Bailey to do the year end, to continue their work on the year end, is it the, no, I'm sorry, to the mid-year.
It's the trial balance year-end effort and the implementation of the accounts payable purchase order module.
The AP module,
Ms.
yes.
Joe, correct me if I've stated things incorrectly for what they need to do.
No, that is correct.
Okay.
And if I may,
But
do you
we
wanna look
need
at the-
to know the amount
Yeah, do you wanna
that
talk
would
about
be
the
required
amount
if we're
to
going to
exceed?
modify the amount.
if I may, I would also
willing
recommend
to
that
pay.
instead of entering into a new contract, that we still treat this as an amendment to the existing contract.
great.
And that for purposes of the amendment, that council would approve an increase to the contract amount. And I think we would need to include in the motion what that amount would be.
Yeah.
And that amount would be limited to the services that have
That
been
scope of
described.
work.
Yes.
Okay.
So in your motion, do you want to keep the 167,000 or do you want to lower that number?
You know, if they're limited by scope,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me what the number is, and if we're clear on that they're limited in scope, my main concern is, getting into an ad hoc situation and not hindering what is going on. So scope does it as well as an amount of dollars does it for me.
Okay.
But I'm perfectly willing to, cut it down, sure. Let's leave it because
Yeah.
why not, right? Let's limit it with scope.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Someone else can choose to make a friendly amendment and say, I'd like to
I'll-
limit it to 125.
I'll second the idea of keeping the amount in place and limiting the contract to those essential things that have already been identified.
Great.
Okay.
All right.
Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Mang.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Excellent. Okay. Does anyone need a 5-minute break before we go to the next item?
I just need coffee, so
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come right back. Okay, are we ready
Yes.
to come back? Okay, excellent. All right, so now are we ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're ready. We're ready.
Okay, excellent. So now we are going to read what was formerly item number 12, and we're moving that up to item number 11, and this is the introduction for first reading with the ordinance 970 adopting the 2025 citywide engineering and traffic survey.
Yes.
So,
okay. Good
Steph?
evening, all. Yes. So this is the next step in the process of the item that you all saw in November in terms of our traffic study and our speed limit reductions. So this is the next step. This is what we need to do. We need to create an ordinance in order to post the signs, et cetera, and legalize this. So again, so this is the introduction of the first reading by title only and further reading waived for the citywide engineering and traffic survey and retaining, establishing, or decreasing posted signs. So the ordinance is at the back of the packet. It's page 169. And what we've really done is sort of regurgitated the traffic study that I presented back in November. Unfortunately, this is the next meeting that we could get this on. It seems like it's been a very long time since we discussed this because we had one meeting in December and here we are in January. So the process is that we introduce this and we come back for the second reading 2 weeks from tonight, which would be just a consent item. The ordinance would then take effect 30 days after that, and we would post signs. So the streets that we are planning on reducing the speed per the study and per prior discussion would be on Country Club Drive, Foothill Road, and Fairview, and those are being reduced from 35 to 30, and then of course Cuyama from 25 down to 20. So we've got signs ready to go as soon as the ordinance is in effect. The effective date will be somewhere around the end of February. So I am open for questions,
Great.
comments.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, no, you did such a great job of explaining everything at the last meeting that it's this, we do have a couple of public comments.
Okay.
Bill Miley.
Hello. I remember many times discussing this over the last couple of years. And Susan Francina was a big advocate of reducing the speed. So what happens to the long-sought need to lower Grand Avenue's speed limit from 30 to 25? We now have 2 new stop signs, which bring it to 4 stop signs. Now we have 4 stop signs with 30 miles an hour in between. It would seem that we could do away with, especially with 1 stop sign, which is at the corner of Drowned and Grand, which is a L-shaped intersection, which kind of confuses a little bit. So I would think that I'd like to know why it wasn't recommended for 25. Thank you.
Do we have any comments online, Weston?
We do not, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right, we'll open it up for discussion unless is that another public comment that's coming up right now? All right. Yes, Mr. Larry Steingold.
I think the speed limits are great. The changes are wonderful. And if you do have signs, please enforce them. The right-hand sign, no right-hand sign on signal. Can we put flags on the little tippy top of those things, if possible? Because I see people just making rights. And now that the hedges have been cleared, there's absolutely no reason not to see the sign. So maybe our sheriff and the deputies could enforce that area, like draconianly. Or either that or get rid of the signs. It's one or the other. Because people just blow through, they just make the right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll go ahead and open up for discussion. And I guess I'll start with just asking about, I actually had the same question about Grand, about why the speed limit's 30 miles an hour, and a number of people have voiced concerns about that speed. And I remember from the last time, from our last report, that the engineers didn't determine that we needed to do anything for that. Is that correct?
Right. The speed survey did not support reducing the speed on Grand Avenue.
Mhm.
The only real, if you even want to call it a problem area on Grand, was at the far east end of the city limits line. So, and it was a very small stretch. So he did the speed surveys in segments from street to street along Grand, and there was not a speeding problem. I am not going to disregard the possible perception of a speeding problem, but the data doesn't support that.
All right, great, thank you. Any other questions, any other discussion?
Yeah, I won't repeat what I've said many times, other than in very short fashion, that it's really important that we follow the recommendations of the traffic engineers where we hired give us advice about our streets. I am happy that we're making this step. We've made some other steps that are improving traffic safety in Ojai. I think this is a really positive move in the right direction.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? I also agree. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for 3 years, and it feels good to do something that's going to improve the safety of our community. And so would anybody like to make a motion?
Go
ahead.
I don't want to make a motion, but I have one more comment to make.
Sure, go ahead.
Something interesting that has just come about too, there's a new assembly bill. It's not on the agenda, but I just wanted to kind of give you a preview of what's to come. Assembly bill that's effective as of January 1st of this year, so 2026. And we are allowed per resolution or ordinance without any traffic studies to reduce the speed limit from 25 to 20 in school zones. So that will become state law in 2031. We have the opportunity to do it now. So I will be investigating what the specifics are of that assembly bill. I believe there's some requirement to put flashing beacons in front of schools, et cetera. So you may be seeing a capital project coming in next year's CIP to do that. I know that that would be something that the community would be very interested in. So just speaking to the safety, overall safety of the students and people, pedestrians, et cetera.
Thank you. And also, I wanted to remind everybody too that we have the Traffic and Safety Commission. A discussion about the formation of that will be coming up on February 24th at that meeting.
Yep.
So I'm sure we'll have many things to discuss as part of that discussion.
We'll load them up.
Yep. All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Great.
I'll second.
Okay.
Roll call. Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember May.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Excellent. Great job. Great work, everyone. And Chief, that's your last piece of business. Oh,
I didn't even get to make a motion.
I know. But yes, but thank you for helping to improve the safety and for rallying the team in the way that you have. So we appreciate it.
Yes, and for your concern.
Yeah.
Your concern.
Yes.
Your deep concern.
Very
Thank
much
you.
so. Okay, we're moving on now to. Okay, yes, we'll give him another round of applause. Good job. Good job.
Sorry to see you go.
I know. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna move. we're going to move on to what was formerly item number 14. Now it is item number 12, and that is the resolution protecting the California coast and public lands from oil and gas drilling and exploration.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is at the request of Mayor Gilman. And first of all, I need to apologize to the council and the community. We had to amend the packet over the weekend, as you all saw, because our system worked. And our system is, if it's not on the working agenda, it's not published. And the mayor very clearly came to me and made this request. I neglected to put it on the working agenda, and that's what happened. So I want to thank the city clerk. I want to thank Ms. Cervantes for all, Ms. Burgess, all for stepping up and for doing the work with me on Saturday to get this going, and here we are. So this is a very timely matter. There is a public comment period that closes, and Ms. Cervantes will correct me on the date, the 23rd. I've got this wrong like 12 times so far. So that's why it's coming to you tonight. And we're looking to see if the council is interested in adopting a resolution opposing the proposed oil leases off the coast of California. In total, I believe that there are 6. 3 of them are in Southern California. Adopting this resolution puts the city of Ojai's voice into the public docket, opposing this proposal from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. Some may have the question, well, you know, Ojai is not a coastal city. What is the nexus? We all have a stake in our coastline, regardless of where we live. And, you know, the analogy I would use is it's no different that if our forest is under threat, which it is, that's not on tonight's agenda, we would want coastal cities to come to our defense because we abut a forest. But as a Californian, everybody should be interested in all the natural attributes of our beautiful state, and this is certainly one of them. And this state has no shortage of oil calamities that have been experienced over the years, especially very locally here and in recent history. And so I'm sure this council and the public and many others are very concerned about creating the potential for another calamity and the impact on the environment and wildlife and our water and so on and so forth. So anyway, there's a million reasons why I believe, as your administrator, you should sign on for this. I'd be happy to go on, but I know you know why we're here, so I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
So I'm just going to add to what the city manager just said, and with the idea that it's been established through many environmental impact reports that everything that goes on out in our channel, the exhaust from that ends up drifting into our valley under certain weather conditions, which is our most frequent weather condition. And then it does not have the ability to dissipate because it's capped by an inversion layer. So we're close enough to that. It is a very, above and beyond all of that kind of stuff that happens in the ocean, it has a significant impact on our air. So I guess my only question is, what's the work plan for getting the statement to the proper authorities?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So this was part of what I was working on in particular on Saturday. So if you go into the resolution under section 2, you will see I've identified 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ways to get the word out. One is, and the most effective and important way is, the online submittal through the .gov URL. That's, have this signed resolution uploaded there. That's number one. But we want to belt and suspender it. We also want to mail, U.S. mail, a hard copy of it to the individual that they have identified. So that's the second one. Then, of course, we want to notify our 2 U.S. senators. We want to notify our 2 representatives. I recognize that Brownlee is, now she's retiring and she only represents a very small portion of town, but she does certainly represent a good chunk of the Ojai Valley. And then also we want to let anybody else that you have in particular in mind know that we're doing this as well. My thoughts are our state representatives and our county representatives, but of course we could let other folks know as well. So that's my list of proposed actions to get the word out here. But I also did this in this way so that a member of the public could pick this up and could, oh, this is how I submit. So members of the public listening, really this is the roadmap on how you do it. And this URL puts you into the portal where you upload your comment letter or make your comment.
Yes,
Any-
thank you. I noticed that.
Any other
Very helpful.
any other questions? Okay, we have some public comments. Anita Cram, is she still here? I don't see her. Okay. Abra Stewart, Fabio Loretta, and Woodrow Brown.
Hello. Hi. Good evening. My name is Abra Stewart. I am a resident of Ojai, and I'm the program manager at Climate First, Replacing Oil and Gas, or CFROG. We're a local nonprofit leading a just transition away from fossil fuels to protect our health, economy, and climate. And I'm here tonight to urge you to adopt this resolution opposing new federal drilling or any federal drilling on the Outer Continental Shelf and also on our public lands. And I know it's mentioned briefly the BLM managed lands within the resolution. Just want to highlight that as well. In the public comment period for that also opened just yesterday, closes March 3rd or 6th, I believe. And I'd just like to highlight that and recommend that this resolution, if adopted as proposed, be submitted through the Federal Register to BLM as well. I grew up in Ojai and spent most of my time here hiking in the Sespe, swimming in the ocean, soaking in all of the beauty that Ojai and Ventura County has to offer. But I was also a sophomore in high school when the Refugio oil spill happened. I was on the surf team at Besson Hill School. And I was a freshman in college studying really late up for my final exams when I had to call my parents in the middle of the night, wake them up and tell them that our house needed to be evacuated because of the Thomas fire. And just last November, our team was fielding calls from concerned residents in Upper Ojai when they saw hundreds of gallons of oil spilling into Cesar Creek from an above ground tank that leaked, managed by CRC. And I think that everyone who lives in Ojai or has a connection to Ojai has similar stories like this. And, you know, we've lived with the consequences of this environmental degradation. And our organization, CFROG, was actually founded by a group of locals in Ojai who found out about proposed drilling in their backyards and wanted to fight back against that. And right now is the time for the whole city of Ojai to fight back against proposed drilling in our backyards. You know, this attempt to expand drilling on public lands includes over 800,000 acres across the Central Coast and Valley, including parcels in and around Sespe Wilderness, Los Padres Forest, and one abutting the Thatcher School. So opening up all students, residential areas, agricultural areas to increased air pollution, potential for, you know, increased seismic activity due to proposed hydraulic fracturing, as well as, you know, groundwater pollution, soil pollution, all of those bad things. And then the offshore drilling proposal, again, threatening our neighbors to the west in Ventura and the beaches that so many of us enjoy when it gets too hot in town, frankly. So we know we don't need more oil and gas drilling in our communities, our public lands, or our oceans. We don't need more climate warming pollutants. We've dealt with those consequences. We don't need more climate change driven wildfires or catastrophic oil spills, but we do need to stand up to what the federal administration is trying to do right now here in California. We are one small town in a really big state, but Ojai has always been a stronghold and a leader, and I would love to see that legacy continued under this council and urge a unanimous vote to adopt this resolution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. Fabio Loretta, and then Woodrow Brown, you're up next after him.
Hi there. I'm also here to urge you to sign on to this resolution. I grew up here in Ojai, had the privilege of enjoying all that it has to offer, nature-wise, hiking, and everything like that. So, also here just to urge you for the resolution. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Woodrow?
My name is Woodrow Brown. I was born and raised here. I also work as an environmental scientist. Specifically, I work in water quality. I think this poses a really great opportunity to stand in solidarity with many other cities in Southern California and just be on the right side of history. You know, this poses a present danger. We have the opportunity to show that we care and show that we can make these decisions properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Weston, do we have any comments online?
We do not, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. All right, so we'll open up a discussion now. Go ahead.
I'll start.
Mhm.
So I will be voting yes on this, but I am conflicted on this resolution opposing new offshore oil and gas leases. We should send this message to the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. We should stand with our coastal communities. But as I reviewed this resolution, I found myself asking an even harder question. Why are we here again? For 40 years, no new federal offshore leases were granted for California's coast. That was supposed to be settled. And yet here we are in 2026 fighting the same fight we thought we'd won. The question, why we keep fighting battles we thought we won, brings me to something I want our residents to understand, the difference between protections and rights. Because this resolution is a protection, and protections, as we're seeing tonight, not only can be undone, but they are being undone on a grand scale. This resolution is a policy statement. It depends on interpretation by officials who may or may not agree with us. It depends on norms and institutional good faith. The 40-year norm against new California offshore leases didn't change because the law changed. It changed because the interpretation of policymakers changed. Policies are no defense. 4 years ago, saying policies are no defense might have sounded alarmist. Today, it's simply descriptive. The kinds of laws we need now are a world away from 2022. Institutions created to protect are now exploiting. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management was created to steward our oceans. Tonight is proposing to auction them. When norms collapse and interpretation becomes a weapon, policy offers no defense. Look at what's actually defending us right now. It's not agencies, it's not executive policy, it's the courts enforcing rights. Rights create legal standing. Rights compel judicial review. Rights cannot be reinterpreted away by political appointees. They must be adjudicated. A protection says the government has decided not to permit drilling here. A right says this ecosystem possesses legal standing to prevent drilling that would violate its existence. That's why I'm proud Ojai already has a rights of nature ordinance. It declares that ecosystems possess fundamental rights to exist, persist, and thrive on par with human rights. It specifies that ecosystems themselves have a legal standing. Any resident can petition for enforcement. Tonight's resolution asks federal officials to please not drill. Our ordinances establishes that ecosystems can sue. I've attended at least 5 court hearings on the rights of non-human living entities: Connecticut, New York, California, Colorado, and soon to be Pennsylvania. Judges get it. They understand the issues and the remedy. They're not cowed by decisions we're asking them to make, but most feel they need direction from the legislature. The judiciary isn't the obstacle. It's waiting for us to act. When we pass rights of nature laws, we give courts the foundations they need. I know not everyone supported this approach. Yes, it's complex, but those complexities aren't reasons to abandon systemic rethinking. They're a roadmap of what we need to address. Complexity is not an argument against rights of nature. It's a description of the work ahead. To those who are opposed to rights of nature, I invite you to join us in the conversation. Bring your questions, bring your expertise, bring your care. Let's address them together. The bottom line, protections depend on officials choosing to protect. Rights create obligations courts enforce. Protections can be reinterpreted away. Rights must be adjudicated. Policies protect at the inclination and whim of politicians. Rights protect regardless of who holds power. The world has changed. Ojai saw this coming. The judiciary is waiting. Policies are no defense. Rights are the only defense. I will vote yes on this resolution, but my hope for this is very limited. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. And to your point, what I'm really proud about Ojai, when we passed our rights of nature ordinance, one of the things we included was drilling. and the right of our natural environment to exist without being
harmed.
I was going to say pilfered, but without being tapped into by corporate entities or anyone else who would just want to ruin our natural environment.
I think it's clear policies are not protecting us from anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's only the courts are our last line of defense. And but I certainly support this policy resolution, but with the caveat that we need more. We need way more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I share the sentiment. I'm glad that we included oil specifically in our Rights of Nature ordinance, and I think this is an important step for being on the right side of history, for doing everything we can to protect our environment. And so one thing I would like to make sure, if this does pass tonight, I would like to make sure that all of these resources that you listed here, that we send them out over social media channels, that we include them in any communication that goes out, and so that every resident knows that their voice can be heard in this matter, that we as a city are taking a stand, but everyone can take a stand. And so anyone watching, regulations.gov, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, the Senator Alex Padilla, Senator Adam Schiff, Representative Salud Carbajal, Julia Brownlee. These are all the people that you need to be reaching out to over and over again to prevent this from happening, because the efforts that we did with SpaceX Falcon Heavy launches, that was overturned. To your point, the policy that policy considerations can change, and we have to do everything we can to stop this from happening. So, I'll move on to.
I got just a couple of comments. I wanted to thank Sea Frog for coming out, and for the members of that group who have been our primary watchdog for oil activity in the region. And but we have a lot of motivated people and organizations, and they all deserve our thanks and our support, and I definitely support this resolution.
Okay, does someone want to put forward a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the presenting of this resolution.
I'll second it.
Roll call. Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Meng.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes. Okay, and now we will go back to what was item number 11, and now it is item number 13. And before we get into this, I was going to recommend that we move forward with the Parks and Rec aspect of this agenda item, and that we table the community survey portion of this item for another time indefinite, to give staff a little bit more time to work on the questions and also work on a plan for disseminating questions and what we will do with the results. So.
No, you. We agree.
Okay. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So we just for anyone who is here to leave comments, we're not going to take any action on the community survey. We are just going to talk about the Parks and Rec aspect. And okay, excellent.
Great. And for that reason, we're asking Ms. Revere to join us here at the dais. She can maybe just give a real brief overview on this recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Please, Ms.
Yes.
Rivera.
Hello. So as you know, we do have an active grant for playground reconstruction or, thank you, revamp at Sarasota Park, which does have an expiration date. So we're looking to do this sooner than later, and our commission put together some questions that we'd just like to present to the public, just to see, you know, what they would like to see differently or what they use most. Yeah.
And what would the process for gathering information? What would the process for disseminating the survey be if we don't attach it to a community survey?
Well, we would put it out SurveyMonkey.
Okay.
Just through, you know, our social media accounts. We can also contact, you know, local media or newspaper to put it out as well.
Okay. And would you be looking at the findings and bringing them before the Parks and Rec Commission?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
For sure.
I have a question for legal counsel. I think the city used to ask people to state their address when making public comments, and I typically like to know if somebody's an Ojai resident or not. Is there any reason that you can't do that? I know that they have no obligation to provide the address as a condition of speaking, but is there any prohibition that we would ask and where they reside?
I don't know that there would be a legal prohibition on asking for that. I do think there would be, depending on how the results will be gathered, that may potentially be public record. So, you know, in this day of information and personal information being out there, that may be a consideration that council would want to consider before requiring that, because that could end up being public information.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, then we have two public comments, Mr. Miley and Mr. Steingold. Bill? No? Oh, okay. He's saying no. Okay, Larry.
Thank you very much. I think a survey is good. To Mr. Whitman's credit, I think asking if they live in the city, within city limits, and maybe what district they live in would be what you may want going forward. And that and versus the county, and whether they're tenants or owners, and how long they've lived in the city, because long-term tenants are just as involved as owners. Short-term tenants, maybe not so much. So that's for questions on that. But the more information you get, the more you can help help us get there. I mean, and then maybe if you want to deliver the questions, you do it by hand to your own neighborhoods, your own districts, so you can meet your constituents. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
We could, sorry to jump in really quick, we
go
could
ahead.
include this in the
Outlook.
Outlook if you
Great.
want.
Mm-hmm.
Not the community survey, but just specifically this and those questions that Mr. Steingold identified that are pretty common in surveys I know you all take.
Excellent, thank
Can
you.
I add something as well? I forgot we were going to put out a QR code at the parks so that, you know, it's more for the people who are visiting and who are there and take part in it.
Great,
We'll
thank
do
you.
that as well.
Do we have another comment, a public comment?
We do, Mayor
Okay.
Pro Tem. We have Renee. Renee, you may unmute and you have the floor.
Good evening. Yes, I wanted to expand a little bit on the topic about what might be included in this survey, because it appears that it's just looking at existing parks and it's looking at existing programs and youth programs in existing parks. And in the past, I know we've talked about the Soul Park and the resources available to the community at Soul Park. And I'm wondering if it could be expanded to include what kinds of things people might want to include at Soul Park. For example, I know the pickleball community is very actively involved in using the pickleball courts, and that's been a really big win for the community. And I'm just wondering, and I'm not trying to direct so much as maybe make it open-ended. Are there things having to do with the bike path and the connectivity of the bike path out to Soul Park? Those kinds of things I know have been talked about, and I know the city council has talked about them, but I'm just wondering if this might be something or a time where you could include additional things that might be included in a survey such as this. Thank you. That's it.
That's
Thank
all,
you.
Mayor.
Okay, we'll open up the discussion.
Yeah, I was just, so question 10 is, I'm sorry, question 11 is, where do you reside? City of Ojai, Ojai Valley, another area in Ventura County. To me, that kind of covers it. Like, if you're talking about basically figuring out who people are, you ask them a district, you know, it's six square blocks, you know, in my district. So I can start, you know, and how many kids do you have? And how often do you come to the park? Well, I know who you are, you know, that kind of thing. And I think that was your concern. But to me, that's fine. Are you a resident of Ojai, the Valley, you know, another city in Ventura County? And if you're not in Ventura County, then we also know you're not in Ventura County. So I think that kind of covers it. And I know I was liaison when this was coming up, and I know that the commission decided that they wanted to keep it as simple as possible to get as many people as possible to answer it, and that it is specific to Sarzati because there's money for that is time sensitive. So it was very limited in scope and limited in questions in order to get the actual, you know, a number of people to just move through it rather than stopping halfway. So I know that what that was the intent of the commission, and that's why you know, these questions are, you know, there's, you know, not that many of them. That was their intent, and you know, I think they had a robust discussion on that, and it made sense to me at the time.
So, question number 11 probably should have a none of the above bubble, because it's asking you, you know, basically if you're only out, it's only asking if you live in Ventura County or the Valley or the city without. And I understood that the part of the goal was to get visitors involved in the survey as well. And then it was my understanding that, you know, this survey is very specific to some grant money that we're targeting, and that's why the scope of questions are directed to where the potential grant
Correct.
is. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Do you want to?
Sure, I make a motion to approve the Sarasota Playground Survey.
And if we may add to that motion, the motion to postpone indefinitely the community survey piece.
There you go.
Would you also like to add to the question you're talking about?
The question number 11, the other.
LA or outside,
outside.
Ventura County.
Or
can do
just
that.
or just none of the
Yeah,
above.
the
I think none
Yeah.
of the above is good.
None of the
LA,
above. Yeah.
question mark.
We want everybody to visit, so it really
Right.
doesn't make it, but it's nice to know.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone is open. The parks are open to everyone.
Great. Okay. City Clerk, is that clear?
We will need a second.
I'll second.
Roll call. Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Councilmember Mang.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
Good job. And I look forward to knocking on doors and passing that out.
I know, right? Here you go. Well, I think
Thanks,
you should
Larry.
drag Larry with
Yeah,
you and make him carry whatever paperwork you're gonna have.
All right, our final item is what was item number 13, and now it's item number 14, and that is our general plan update, revised survey questions regarding the economic diversification element.
Mr. Seibert is here.
I have arrived, yes. Good afternoon, good evening, council members. My name is Lucas Seibert, for the record. I'm the Community Development Director here for the City of Ojai. The item we have before you tonight is an item, actually, that this body has seen twice. This is the third time. But what you had asked at the last meeting in November of last year was for two things. One is to go back and talk to the Chamber of Commerce. And then the second one was to kind of flush out some of the questions that relate specifically to the general plan. So what we have done, what Community Development Department has done, is flushed out those questions in kind of a hybrid format. One is we've provided blue asterisks by those questions. I think there's 10 in total that have been identified that really kind of fit and speak to the general plan, and more specifically to a piece that Councilmember Whitman had brought forward. And in doing that, the fun thing that staff gets to do is kind of read into those policy pieces. And doing that kind of helped us to kind of navigate what we thought was maybe 1 or 2 questions turned into 10. So that's what we have here tonight. In addition to that, we met specifically with Carla for the chamber and had a really good conversation. What came out of that was a red line that you have before you. That red line is attachment A. And then attachment B is actually the clean version of that if you were to accept all changes.
Great.
So with that, that is kind of the presentation. I would say this, if this body approves moving forward with this survey as is, we are gearing up to provide it to the masses, not only hitting, what we've noticed with these surveys is that we've been missing kind of the youth piece, and I've had conversations with the school districts and getting the word out to those individuals so that at least we're covering that piece, because we've been very heavy on the 65 plus and very light on the 35, kind of the 25 to 45 range. So we're hoping to get to that piece and cover it with some of the other ways in which we're going to get the survey out.
So I have a few questions. This first filter question, and the way I understand the survey works, that if you, depending on how you answer this first question, you're sent down a different path of questions.
Correct.
And so what it does, though, is that it causes someone to say, if they're both a business owner and they live in the city of Ojai, and those are people who maybe I most want to hear from, they have to choose to answer the business survey or the resident survey. So I'm wondering if it can be set up so that one of the options is I'm both a resident and a business owner. And
so you're talking about a fourth option, right? Because right now there's the three. There's the community member, the business owner, and then the hospitality piece.
Right.
Or are you talking about having the community member have the option underneath it of?
Well, yeah, because what happens is you end up getting put into a triage that's specific to that individual. So a community member will be only answering questions as it relates to the community member.
Right. I want a community member, a person who's both a resident of Ojai and a business owner, to have the ability to answer all of those questions.
So this will be electronic, right?
It is. It's going to be.
Okay, so the logic will just simply be that you could expand what you're walking through if you select both.
But you would have to really tailor. I mean, you couldn't pick the community questions and the business owner
What I was
questions
envisioning was just you first run through the community, and then you run through the business owner.
Right, right.
Okay.
And it's labeled like,
Yeah, so
okay,
you-
I've
so you-
indicated both.
Yeah.
So I'm going through the community side. Now I'm going through the business side.
Yeah, and I was thinking that if you had the fourth button that said I'm, both a community member and I'm a business owner, that then they would be fed both of the lines of questioning for answers.
That actually makes sense, especially, I mean, I can think of a couple that are both. What about the hospitality piece? Do you think there's the opportunity for a community member to also be hospitality? Or are you only concerned?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
I think that's absolutely possible.
So that's
Yeah.
So it would be basically 5. The triage before you get started would be the 3 plus the 2 you just talked about. And by doing that, you would basically combine the 2. That's the nice thing about the Qualtrics. I've already started kind of playing around with it. That mechanism exists. So.
And then in community member questions, actually the very first one could be a model for the parks, because it does ask to select whether you reside in the city of Ojai, the Ojai Valley, other Ventura County, or other. So how many survey responses do we need to get, achieve statistical significance in the reliability of the survey?
There isn't necessarily a number. I think the more data that we receive, I think the better the result and output will be. So it's the reason why, and this is what we've had happen with a couple of our surveys in the past regarding the general plan, is that we've had a heavy amount of individuals that are either nearing retirement or post-retirement responding, which is great. We want that. But what we're missing is the youth piece. And we've done specific interviews with the youth community, but in terms of them filling out a survey, what we found is that that has not been happening. What I've recently found out is that that's mainly because the information is not specifically getting to them, to that individual. They have different ways in which to research or even gain information. What I was doing before is I was only putting it like through Ojai Valley News. How many youth individuals read the Ojai Valley News? Well, I'm speaking some truth to that. And it's not a, So what was happening though is when we were sending out to Ojai Valley News, I'd have a huge number of individuals reaching out and providing information. As soon as I would put the banner out, I'd get hit almost immediately with a surge of survey results that would come in. And it would be within that specific quadrant, which is the nearing retirement or post-retirement. We've been developing a relationship with the school districts, and that potentially has a pipeline for information gathering. And not only that, but I'm also seeing with this council reaching out to the community, and not only that, but the youth specifically. And we've already started tapping into that resource as well. So I see some amazing opportunities. We also have youthful planners that are on staff that have ideas that I wouldn't have necessarily thought about to reach those community members. So I think
the mayor have a group that he meets with?
I wasn't going to call that out specifically, but that's one of the pieces I was talking about. Yes, absolutely. So there's those opportunities. So there's the youth piece, and then there's also the business piece. What I've noticed is that when we've been reaching out to the business community, it hasn't been as responsive. I think having that connection with Carla and having that as a resource, not saying anything negative regarding the previous executive director, but what we have with Carla is a fresh face, a fresh idea, fresh perspective. So I think we're going to be hitting the ground running there. I'm very confident with kind of hitting all those sectors. Hospitality has historically been something that as long as we're reaching out to them, they've been responsive. So I don't see an issue with that.
So one of the goals I understood of this general plan element included addressing the ability of employing people here in Ojai at a sufficient income level that they could actually afford to live here. So I'm interested, if it's not, too far off of what you're trying to do, to have a question in both of the business pieces that would ask, how many people your business employs, and ask them, how many employees are in these different, salary ranges, above six figures, between 65 and 100,000, between 40 and 65, or below 40, so that we have, some understanding about how much employment we're generating and what type of employment we're generating.
So to respond to that, that's not a survey question. I think the reason why that's not a survey question is that sounds almost like census data, where you're polling and extrapolating specific pieces and then seeing kind of a triage of not to exceed certain dollar amounts in terms of those employers. Now, it won't necessarily identify a specific employee group, but what it does do is it starts to break down the hierarchy in terms of the dollar amounts of those individuals. What we could do, and what may end up coming out of this. Now, understand that the way this survey is being modeled is it's meant to be a baseline by which we use. It's a tool that we're using as a part of the economic diversification element. It's not necessarily the only thing we're using, but it's one of the pieces. It's no different than what the general plan, when we first started that process several years ago, created a baseline report. And that baseline report is what has helped to inform the elements that we're working on today. The housing element was included in that. So here, this is only one piece. You're asking for a specific piece that I believe, and I can go back and talk to the consultant, that can be absolutely received, but not necessarily in this survey format. I think that's too deep of a dive, given the type of information you're looking to tease out. If that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure I understand why it would be a problem to ask a business owner how many people they employ and what and how much they pay them.
Yeah,
do you think that is readily available to us, the Census data?
Yes.
Related to the city?
I think that is either readily available, or by first looking at that data, you can backtrack it through those businesses that exist. And this is kind of what was explained to me by the consultant. There isn't a lot of large businesses that exist within Ojai. So it's basically a handful. You can go out and have those conversations with those individuals. They'll have that data, or they'll point you in the direction to where you can get that data. So I'm not sure if we were to do it. Okay, so let me just tease this out. If we were to do a survey question that asked for, within the hospitality sector or within the business sector, please identify the business type that you operate. That would be the first question. The second question would be, how many employees do you have? The third question would be, give the number of employees based on the salary ranges. Is that what we're talking about? Annual salary
Those are
range.
basically my question.
Yeah. Let me look into that. That's a maybe. Okay, so I just basically figured it out. Yeah. That's a possibility. The concern that I have is that we're making the survey, it's already fairly long. And what I don't want to have is the fatigue of these individuals filling it out. And each question that we add adds to the level of fatigue. I am very interested in the data that comes in, but I'm also concerned about the people that are providing us with that data. And I'm hopeful that each individual that does this does it in mind of recognizing it's for the betterment of the community. I can't guarantee that that's going to be the case every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's great information to have, but then I think about it requires a certain person in that business to have that information. Like if you go to Rainbow Bridge, or, I mean, you have to have, there's only going to be one or two people who actually have access to that information other than
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're a business owner. Yes. I don't know. For me, it would stop me from moving forward. Because I'd have to think, how many employees do I have in this range? I don't know. I think this many. You know, it's just too much. It requires more thought than usually surveys do. But that's just my thought. That's just my thought on it.
The survey does have several open-ended questions. It's meant to entice those individuals that are interested in providing that thought-provoking information, but it also recognizes that not everybody's going to do that. I think a survey, you're hopeful that everybody that fills it out is doing it in a thoughtful manner. That's really kind of the intention of what we're looking at here. To your point, I think there's another way in which we could tease that information out. I think one is the census data that we see every 10 years. I think the second piece is actually reaching out to those individual businesses that are beyond the, I don't know, 10 or 15 full-time employees that they've got going on, right? There's just a handful of them. Reaching out to those individuals and seeing kind of I think that might actually be more productive versus having it through the survey. I think you're probably going to get mixed feelings, and it may be information that we can't even use at this point. So,
and I think you answered a question that I was going to ask, but it sounds like you're not doing the survey on your own. You're working with a consultant who's advising about how to ask these questions and get meaningful data.
Yes.
Okay. And is that the firm that we retained for this part of the general plan?
Correct. And we've been meeting with them as well as Ramey and Associates to go through this. And it's the reason why it's when we first started having the conversation about the survey, which by the way, it was, and for, as you guys remember, it was going to be a focus group, but that just didn't meet kind of what we were hoping to achieve through this community and getting that community input. So we shifted to this survey, which then started with drafts and then back and forth, and we've landed on this. And I'll have to admit, it's been even expanded on, because initially when we were looking at it, it was very close-ended in terms of the questions, but recognized there was an opportunity for several of these to be open-ended. And they agree. So, yeah, you could almost consider this to be, from this, the start of a baseline report to help inform the way in which this economic diversification element will be shaped. It's one of the pieces.
Yeah. So, we can approve this.
The question, or I'm sorry, was that a
It
question?
is-
So-
it
okay,
is
I'm
a
sorry.
question.
Okay.
We can approve this and potentially add additional questions about those employment details if our consultant says, yeah, I think that's good information. If they say no, it wouldn't, then you can just tell them they said no, it wouldn't. You leave it out.
You could, yes, you could. We've already got a scheduled meeting tomorrow with the consultants, so.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a couple of public comments. I think I saw Bill Miley and Larry.
Hi. My comments are to 11 and 13. So here are some thoughts on crafting the documents for getting a high rate of return and also being able to apply the information in the real world. I think they need further refinement. So on the question of meaning and motivation, surveys, especially general all subject questionnaires, have a couple of challenges. The key one is the respondent understanding the subject, the question wording, and the options for responding. The second, and even more important, is the issue of motivation to complete it and returning it. The economic diversification survey should get a high grade of return because it's on specifics and it has something to do with what folks are doing for their lives. An important issue for the senders is what we do with the information we get. An example, the survey results on a 1 to 5 response show 20 responses on number 3. What do you make of that? You probably have to ask another question saying, what further comments do you have about your rating of number 3? A way of refining and crafting the document is to do some testing of it. And I would suggest that each of the council members fill them out as if they were just a general resident of the city. Also, I would suggest that each council member pick 3 residents and ask them to fill it out, and then give them a question at the end. Question, which would be, how motivated are you to fill this out when you find it in a city newsletter? How can the survey be changed to increase your motivation to complete it? Is there part of the survey that should be done in a second survey? Too many questions here. Are there questions which are really hard to answer and need redoing? The purpose, it seems to me, is to gain an understanding of how residents and business folks see our city, understand and value what the city government does now and in the past, and how to get input on how to make the city better and more responsive to its residents. We want to thank the people who filled it out.
Thank you, Mr. Miley.
And hopefully, a lot of them will. We're helping craft the process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Miley.
Give community feedback to make everything much better in the future.
Okay,
Really test
thank you. Great, thank you. Okay, Larry.
Good evening. Economic diversification. When I first got here, I was operating as a commercial real estate broker and quickly noticed that the city operates on sales tax and TOT. Then you've got businesses over on Bryant that really don't generate sales tax. They produce a product that they sell to somebody else sells it, or they're a machine tool shop. The businesses that we would like here, a cobbler. I mean, the local things that we used to have growing up can't afford the rents here, but they're opening up in Miners Oak. They're doing other things here. Some of the questions are tourism. How does it affect us? Noise. The list on number 8 affects everything. But are we going to have more tourism? We're not building any more hotels. I mean, between the competitors not wanting more hotels and us not wanting more traffic and more people. So is it more tourism? No. Is it less tourism? As long as we keep the tax coming in. Because if we decide we don't want this, we don't want that, we got to get the income from somewhere else. So all these questions go back to, where is the money going to come from if we change less retail? Granted, inflation will help carry some of it, but that's our own problem. So the idea of economic diversification should be, what do we want to diversify? We're not going to have more hotels, we don't want more tourists. We just want more money. So if we can get less tourism at a higher price, but that's a deterrent anyway. So all these things come together. So some of these questions, business people want more business. As a person, I want them to have more business, but we don't need another 5,000 people in the city every week to compensate for more businesses. So economic diversification is more like economic management, which I've discussed with Lucas multiple times, versus economic development, because nobody can define development, or at least to anybody's satisfaction. If you mention economic development, people will come out with pitchforks and torches. So economic diversification, economic management, and where are we going to get do we want more sales tax? That means more retail. That means more stores on Ojai Avenue, maybe a mixed use somewhere else, what have you. But that's the only alternative, unless there's some other way to get fees and we're not getting real estate, and how much more fees can you charge for items? So that's my idea, is like, be real with these questionnaires. Do we want more tourism? Only if they bring money. I mean, do we want more sales? But we don't want more traffic. So it's like tour buses. You know, they bring in more money, but they bring in less traffic. Anyway, thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Okay, do we
Mayor
have-
Pro Tem, yes, we have Renee again.
Okay.
Renee, you may unmute.
Okay, hello. Um, as you're talking, I'm beginning to get a better understanding of where you're trying to go with this survey. But and you're calling it a questionnaire. But it really started out, from what I understand, to be a topic of economic diversification. And surveys that you're asking people about tourism don't really provide choices or options that propose or can assist with diversification. So it sounds like there's a mix-up on the terminology. You're trying to get where are we at right now with jobs in our community, a current status, and where we're starting from. I understand that. I think Carla is great. I think that you've done a contract with the Chamber of Commerce is great. I actually think the focus group approach might create rewards if you went back to that with the assistance of Carla and the Chamber to try to get at where are you at and what are the challenges our current businesses are facing. I think that would be very helpful. We've got restaurants closing. We've got places that can't get started back up again. And it's really hard to know what's going to happen in our community. I think many are concerned. But the survey and economic diversification is really a structural challenge. It's not an opinion. Surveys don't answer the hard questions like what jobs can we locate here? Where will the workers live? What infrastructure is needed to support them? So presenting it as a questionnaire as meaningful engagement creates the appearance of progress, but you're not really getting at an expert-led, data-driven planning process that I think you really need to feed into the general planning process. So I'm hoping that you can align the land use and the housing and the transportation and the climate resilience and the workforce development all with where we're going with diversification. But this to me is not really a survey about diversification. It's a current status of where our employment sectors are and what kind of jobs do we have here. And I think it needs to be reworded on what your purpose is. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay, great. One thing I want to mention just before we open up this discussion to Renee's point, we are coming back with an economic diversification action plan, correct? From that we are working on with our consultants.
Yeah, and it's just an economic action plan.
Mhm.
This is a survey, questionnaire, whatever you want to use, that will help form a policy document. What you're going to be bringing back is, here are some things you can do to stimulate your local economy.
Thank you. Yes, and another reason why we are including tourism with this is because one of the things that we brought up when we were discussing adding this component to the general plan was that right now we have so much of our income coming from tourism. And so we wanted to get a real clear sense of how is tourism impacting our community, both the economics of it, the business community, and also the residents. And so this is an information gathering survey that is going to help us to make some of those policy decisions when we get to the general plan updates. And I think the other piece of this is, to Renee's point, we have had so many businesses that have had to close their doors. And we've been working with the chamber for the last year to try to see how we can meet the needs of our businesses. And if we know how much our local businesses are relying on tourism, then that can help us to shape any services that we would offer them, or it would help us to keep our businesses that I think are important because we have a formula business ordinance, and it'll help us to allow our businesses to thrive, which is going to ultimately support our economy, give the tourists that we do have and that we want to have for our economy places to go. And so I think this is an important step in that process. And I'll open it up for anyone else.
Yeah, I actually have some questions about what percentage of our income, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but what percentage of the city's income is from TOT and what percentage is from sales tax?
So, revenue stream, what are the numbers? Our number one source of revenue off the top of my head, I believe, is the TOT. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, on the breakdown. I don't want to give you a wrong answer. I can do that.
Because I've understood this issue and what we're getting at with the survey, that understanding the nature of our business, whether it's tourism or not tourism, is important. But, my main goal in pursuing this avenue is to have better understanding of how we can manage our economy, which happens to be predominantly tourism, in a way that makes every resident feel like they still have a hometown. We had one prominent politician a few, years ago that would say, well, are we going to have to go, downtown in our lederhosen and promote the tourists? So my thought is, I generally like the survey because I think it is gathering data. Whether the data ends up being valuable or not, we won't know until we get, the number of people responding. But it will at least be information, and you're looking for information in areas that we don't necessarily have a lot of information now. So, I like that. I want to make sure that however the survey is conducted, there's not the opportunity to go in multiple times to enter your preferences, and I do want to have that clarification that I made initially, which is that we distinguish between the business owner who's a resident and get their feedback on that. I think
yeah, that's a good.
I think
that's a
you
good
figured
suggestion.
out.
Yeah. I've sorted through that. That's easy.
How to do that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I have a desire that we move forward with each of the elements of the general plan that we are going to revise. And we have spent a lot of time to get to this point with this survey, and I'm generally ready to move forward with a few tweaks.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move that we move forward with the tweaks.
There you go.
Does anybody else have any more discussion?
No, I just want to say there are questions here that I'm very interested in finding out the answers to, because I think there's different segments in this town and in the valley who really haven't been heard from, you know, and I'm interested in hearing from them about their feelings around tourism and their feelings around the city. If they don't come to the council meetings and they don't have a direct line to one of us, we don't really hear from them. So for that reason, I support this survey because I want to know actually the answers to some of these questions in a larger scale than just the folks that show up here and the ones that email us, you know.
So was that a second?
Absolutely.
Great, thanks.
Thank you for moving us forward.
Yes. Roll call. Councilmember Rule.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitman.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lang.
Yes.
Councilmember May.
Yes.
Thank you, Lucas. Great job. Good job.
Right,
All
it's one
right.
piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And it will give us some
Right.
good insight, in my opinion.
All right, so we are at council member reports. Does anybody have anything they want to report on?
I'll just say, with being the liaison for HPC, they're excited about our joint meeting. So they're already working on things they want to discuss, and excited to be with them again. So that's about all I have to say with that.
Excellent.
And I should bring up that Leslie and I do have an ad hoc with two of the members from HPC, and they're asking to renew the term because even though we've been together and met a lot, we really haven't accomplished what we set out to accomplish. So we're hoping.
Yeah, we've made inroads, so there's no reason. I mean, we need to keep moving forward because we've made enough progress that it would be, you know, kind of detrimental not to move it forward.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I have from Mayor Gilman a reminder that Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and there is an event at Matilaha, and it is in the morning. I think it goes from 10 till 1:30. Is that correct? Did I get the time right? I think 10 till 1:30. And there are lots of talks and performances and events, and it's going to be a great community event.
That time sounds right, Mayor Pro Tem, but I
Okay.
believe it's at Libby Park.
It's at Libby
And
Park.
Libby
I'm
Bowl.
sorry.
It's
Thank you so
Libby Bowl
much. It was.
specifically.
But there's a
yes.
party at Libby. Too.
Yes, there's the party. Okay, so
It's
yes.
from 10:30 to 1.
10:30 to 1. Okay, and it's at Libby Park. Thank you. And then I just had one other thing, and that is next week I'll be in Sacramento at the policy committee, at my policy committee meeting, and at the California League of Cities, and I'm sure I'll have lots of information to report back about the legislative priorities for 2026, and I'm looking forward to being there and representing Ojai in Sacramento. Yep.
I have
Yeah.
some quick numbers.
Okay.
Just if I could respond to your question. Okay,
Oh,
so
great.
this is thanks to Norma. So forgive it. This is clumsy reading, but 25-26 TOT 7.1 million, roughly 27% of the general fund money. Property taxes 25-26 a little over 4 million, 15%. Measure C 3.2, 12%. Sales tax, which is the lowest one, 2.49%. Now, there are other revenue streams you receive, grants and transfers and so forth, but those are the money. Yeah. Thank you, Norma.
But then the Measure C is actually
You're right.
a subset of the TOT.
Yes.
So that
You could
number
add that,
is
you could add that.
potentially
So you're
a larger number.
You're
than TOT.
significantly reliant on TOT, which you already knew, which is why you have 100% reserve.
And that our property values stay high, which I don't think we're at risk at.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
They're dropping.
Great. Do we have any future agenda items?
I do.
Okay.
So we get a message, at least weekly, telling us that there's problems with the contracting for the cabin village. And I I would love to hear, a report about, because I don't like 100% believe in the source of that information, but the source of that information sure is certain that there's irregularities and that we're so I'm very much interested in whether we're on track with both our contract compliance and Dignity Moves contract compliance, and where we are in terms of what the city's nut is likely to be if we continue pushing forward. So I would like to get a status report on that to address those concerns I keep hearing. I'd need a second if we were to get that report.
Yeah. I'll support that.
Go ahead. She already did. We got it. I think it's unanimous.
Yes.
Okay. I've got one more, and we talked about it tonight a little bit, specific to the accountant. I'd like a report on our, guiding our policy on whether we should be contracting versus looking for direct hires, and then as kind of a tangent to that, what's the best way for us to build and secure institutional memory? I've been making the assumption that direct hires is the best way to do that. Maybe there's other ways, and I'd like to hear how we do that.
You already have a future agenda item that deals with contracting versus in-house and all that.
Okay.
And I think, like, one of my concerns, I think we both agreed that was something we wanted to do. Yes, I know it's been on the working agenda, but it's been on there a very long time, and things have come up before that were brought up afterwards. So I don't know if there's like a time frame, like what is the rotation of all of us putting something on, we want this on an agenda, what takes priority or to move you up?
We don't really have something like that. I'm
wondering if maybe it's time to look at, I don't know how you guys feel about getting your.
I would just say maybe just make it even more simple. So everybody gets the working agenda document, and you really need to look at it because it says what's coming at the next meeting. If there's something coming at a next meeting that you really feel that doesn't need to be coming and we can sub in something else, great. But I'll tell you that the next 4 meetings are pretty chock full. So we're looking at March timeframe for some of these things. Plus, we also have to work on your goals and tactics, and then whatever's on the list. So,
and then I've got a third one.
Perfect.
Sorry, but I actually raised this with Bethany, and I had a second on. There's a California community that is developing an ordinance to address the idea of buying up all your neighbors' properties and creating a compound.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some people in our town who are doing that, and although it's great for people to have money and to buy whatever they want, the problem is that it removes residences from the stock of residences available for people who actually want to live here. So I've asked for that to be on the agenda, and I hope we get to look at that. And it's great.
What would that entail? Like, how much work were we going to put?
Well, and it's great because another community is kind of, as I understand it, laying the groundwork, and we can just look at it and see if it's something we can emulate or modify, if that's a recommendation.
Sure. I don't know. I'm confused. So the city is buying up property
No,
or
no,
residents are buying up.
Like, I have a
residents.
house next to you and I say, I want more, I want my
Yeah.
space, so I'm gonna buy your house, you're gonna sell to me, and then before you know it, there's a 5-mile radius that belongs to me.
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Or some,
Or
you know.
if, like,
We think that's going on in Ojai?
It's,
yeah.
yeah.
In
yeah.
Ojai, the
Yes,
town of Ojai?
It is. It's,
So somebody wants to buy the property next to their house?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
And
happening.
they want to have a double? How many places? Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, what, 5? Okay, sure. Let's, I mean, that to me, sure, let's look at it, but
It's more about housing equity, like making sure that we have affordable. It falls under the category.
no,
of
no, I
affordable
understand, but you know, if you buy up a house, I mean, I don't want to get into this discussion, but if you buy up your neighbor's house, you know, and we're complaining about how expensive houses are, you're only keeping someone out who can pay $1.5 million for a house. There's no housing equity in that. I mean, poor people aren't buying houses for $1.5 million, and you know, I don't know, it just sounds kind of far-fetched to me. Like somebody comes in and they knock on your door and they twist your arm and they say, we want to buy your house, get out. Is that what we're talking about? Or we're talking about the
I
property?
would say
it's not agendized.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
okay.
can't
So
talk
we
about
can't
it.
Sure,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do.
But this is more about
Oh,
just,
sure.
do we want to put this on the agenda is where this is.
And do we have to, I'm not sure if I'm hearing 2 or 3 people who support that. Just wanting to make sure.
I would say to look into it, depending on, you know, if we're gonna go on somebody's coattails, and it wouldn't be so pricey to start,
Right.
you know, yeah, I would look into it.
Okay. All right. Any other future agenda items? Okay. All right. Well, with that said, we will adjourn this meeting at 9:49 p.m.
Oh, and I,
Thank you.
and